All right. True. All right, welcome to the Plastow Planning Board, December 6th, 2023. With that, we will do a roll call.
Ready?
Yes,
Tom Alberti,
here.
Karen Robinson,
Here.
Lori Millette,
Here.
Chuck Fowler,
Here.
Richard Anthony,
Here.
Tim Moore,
Here.
Bill Coy,
Here.
and Victoria Healy.
Here.
All right. With that, we will do the minutes review and approval. And let's see, any questions about the minutes? I wasn't here, so I wouldn't know. Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Bill makes a motion to accept the minutes.
Second it.
Karen seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstained? Me? Against? All right. Motion passes 401. Tom is the abstention.
I didn't do that at all.
I'm a little out of sorts.
No, I
I've been to
didn't
like
do it
one
at
meeting
all.
in the last 6 months, I think.
I was.
What is
I
this?
didn't do
You're
anything.
down in the minor leagues tonight.
Is this the budget committee? Sorry. All right. With that, we will move to, we tabled the discussion with Steve Keach. I think that there needs to be some additional thought into some discussion and make sure that it's a productive discussion and it's on point. So with that, Mr. Keach is not coming this evening, but we are going to gather our thoughts, have some, again, I think part of what we want to do is include engineers, other members of the community and other boards and stuff and invite them to some of these meetings. So I think we'll look to do that in the first quarter after we get through the holidays. And so from there, we're going to move to the public hearing. All right. So continued from November 15, 2023, PB 23-12, the completeness and application from J&R Realty Trust, Jeffrey Raymond TR, for a proposed trade business site plan. The plan proposes to raise the existing residential structure and build a new two-story, 1,120 square foot office building within the existing footprint. The plan further proposes a 1.5-story, 3,400 square foot, 4-unit trade business building with associated parking, drainage, lighting, and landscaping. Property is located at 190 Plaza Road, tax map 44, lot 2 in the C3 zoning district. The applicant is the property owner of record. I believe the application was found to be complete at the last meeting. Is that correct?
Yep,
This is a continuation of that hearing.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
How you doing? Good, good, thanks. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Good.
I assume that at the last meeting that the plan was presented, discussed. Okay. In terms of continuing the meeting, obviously, like I said, I wasn't present at the last meeting, but was there, I think of particular interest was a request to be provided with the court notice? Is that correct?
Yeah, the decision.
Right,
Okay.
we finally.
Yeah.
Is there any questions now that that information was presented in front of the board? Because the original application goes back a couple years?
Yeah, about
Yes.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay.
Yep.
Did we need Charlie to sort of present anything else about the plan? Do we need any questions? I'll kind of leave it to the board to pick up the pieces from where it was at.
I think we basically were talking about the warehouse, which is, or whatever they want to call it, trading business, was going to the side, wasn't going to be in the front, facing frontwards, and that they were going to be redoing the house. A nice building.
Correct.
front, Landscaping in the front.
Yep.
And then the only thing I guess we were really, and no storing of big huge equipment in the back.
Correct.
Right?
So basically, yeah, as we talked about last time, made some pretty good improvements over the plan that was here 2 years ago, and that was based on the discussion with this board, as well as comments from your town engineer. And so we've eliminated all the outside storage. That means, and also, it's strictly going to be a trade business, so there's no contractor vehicles on site. Okay, and those are like what you call them, the lambs and all those sort of things. So we eliminated about 4,000 square feet of outside pavement area. And so now we're about 40% coverage, where 75% is allowed. I think we're at 47. So that knocks down the temptation to store things outside, so to speak. We got rid of the storage units as well. Those no longer shown on the site. And all the parking spaces are your conventional 9x18 parking spaces. So we got rid of some of the larger parking spaces that we were going to be able to store some of the larger vehicles. So that's gone as well. As far as the building, there is no real requirement for any potential siding layout or anything like that, or facade, what it's supposed to look like. But Mr. Raymond was here, and he does own a siding and roofing company, and he's promised that he's going to soften the look, make it less commercial-like. And so obviously, this building is going to be his base. The professional office building, it's going to be his showcase of the, for his product. And so the 4 units in the back, we talked about after the meeting as well as at the meeting, different kind of shingles, different kind of siding. He could perhaps make the bay doors look like barn doors or something that matches with the professional office building. And he's vowed he's going to do that. I was hoping it has some renderings prior to this meeting, but they're in the process of moving. And I was informed that his architect is as busy as everybody else and just wasn't able to get it done on time. But he will make those improvements when he does build the site. So he has promised to do that. The only other thing, other than the fact that a couple of board members are looking to review the court decision, is we're waiting for our DOT permit. We had our driveway permit for out to Old County Road from the town's road agent, so that's in place. And we did receive our DOT permit. They wanted a $5,000 bond to make sure that the improvements that were done on 125 were done correctly. And so we submitted a $5,000 bond to DOT, and they issued the permit. So we're all set with that. We
Is
do
that
have sign
right
off
turn
from,
only?
what's that?
With the right turn only?
That was gonna be right turn only, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Right in and right out.
Yeah, no entrance there, right?
That's on Old County.
Okay.
Yep. So Old County's just for right out only.
So if this is a trade business that is going to have offices as well as you're indicating that there'll be some aspect of it, almost showroom.
Yes.
There's almost 30 parking spaces. I mean, and
For the other
beyond being a retail establishment.
No,
There's a
that's
lot of
based
parking.
that's based on the town's required calculation.
Sure.
Yep.
I know that we've kind of addressed some of that at times and said, paving, putting more pavement down isn't always necessary, right? Like where it makes sense. So that's strictly, do you anticipate that there might have been a smaller footprint of parking lot if not required by our town zoning?
No, I think that's pretty spot on for what he's expecting as far as employees. Remember, there'll be people coming in, there'll be parking vehicles there that go out to the sites. And then, so they're going to have people come in, park their vehicles, their regular, private vehicles, take the commercial vehicle, and they'll be gone for the day. So they'll need at least 2 spaces for each employee. So that's where it adds up a bit.
Does 2 spaces for every employee? And then in terms of vehicles for the business, will there be any large?
He'll have to keep those at the other side because they're strictly prohibited here.
Okay. All right. I'm sure you guys addressed that.
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Any questions up to this point from anybody else?
All we were basically looking for was, sometimes the
Yeah.
board wanted to look at the court decision,
I've been,
which everybody, we got emailed, so I think we all saw that. right?
I guess the one question I have is that this has changed C3 from the moment that the applicant first came in to now. Has there been any concerns about that? I apologize. I only briefly read through the court decision. I thought it said something about this being C commercial 1 when this is actually commercial 3.
It did in the
It did.
decision.
Is that, I mean, I know it's a court decision. Like, what are your thoughts on that? If the court has referenced this being a C1 district when in fact it's a C3 district?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
They also refer to the building as a warehouse.
Warehouse, that's why I brought that up. But he's not going to make it
No,
look like a warehouse.
no.
So more of a showroom and storage supply?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my point last time.
Right. And I think the court decision's focus is on the definition between a contractor's yard and a trade business. I think, so if
Sure.
they
More
referenced
on that.
C1 or C3, I don't think that really made that much of a difference. I think it was the focus on the town's definition, whether or not they fit that definition.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is
Okay.
it, does it have any impact, right? Like if their decision was based on our C1 zoning and this violated C3 zoning, then I would say, wait a second, we've got a concern here. But if it ultimately meets, if that's just more of a, a terminology thing in their decision and really doesn't affect the plan and its conformity to C3, then in terms of materials, the bulk of their materials that they are going to store, is it not going to be at this location?
They'll be storing it indoors and at the other location
Okay. Within the
within the 4-unit building.
okay.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions from the board? Okay. All right. Well, within that, I just want to make sure there's nothing else we need to address for the staff report.
And the last meeting, we also talked about like landscaping
I did the
out
yeah, I
front. So
thought that about the
through all that.
landscape.
we talked about all that, too.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody's comfortable with moving towards the application acceptance motion?
Yep. He was here and he spoke and he said exactly what he was going to do, so.
Would someone like to read the,
Yeah, I can do it. I move that the site plan application for J&R Realty Trust, Jeffrey Raymond, TR for trade business use at 190 Plastow Road, tax map 44, lot 2, is noted in the legal notice for planning board matter number 23-12, be approved with the following conditions. Plan note updated to reflect the DOT driveway permit number and date of approval. Note regarding receipt of Town of Plastow driveway permit updated with the date of approval. Conditions of this approval shall be met, and all recording materials as well will be outlined in the notice of decision to be submitted to the planning department within 90 days of the date of the board's conditional approval. If conditions cannot be met within 90 days, the applicant shall submit a request to reopen the public hearing, including a butter notification for consideration of an extension of the 90 days. The request to reopen the public hearing must be received so that the notice can be made prior to the expiration of the 90 days.
all right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Chuck seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 500. I'm going to add some additional notes that weren't part of the motion, but we just want to have them on the record. Impact fees. The following impact fees are assessed for this project must be paid prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy. Office space, 1,120 square feet times 2 floors equals 2,240 square feet times $1.27 per square foot is $2,844.80. Commercial use, 3,400 square foot, 1.5 story height, no second floor, times 0.97 cents per square foot is $3,298. Total public safety impact fee assessment is $6,142.80. The LCHIP fee, Rockingham County Registry deeds requires a $25 LCH IP fee for all new site plans at the time of recording. Information as to how to write the check will be provided in the notice of decision. And recording, the notice of decision will provide details for what will be required for the recording of the plan. Please do not submit any plans for recording until you've received the notice of decision. All right, what's that?
Thank you very much, and thank you for accommodating us at your work session. Appreciate that as well.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
All right, I guess I should have opened the floor for any public discussion. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's,
Yeah.
That was pretty much
All right.
discussed last.
I see we have some members of the public here, not necessarily on the agenda, but the board is always open to hearing from the public. If there's anything along the way that someone would like to speak to, please raise your hand. And then sort of as we work through and we get to our other business, I can open the floor up, and if anybody would like to speak, we'll welcome them at that time. So continuing the public hearing, or continuing this meeting, we're going to look to talk about the build-out analysis. And Rob, is it Prune?
It's Prime, but
Prime.
it's fine. No one gets it right. I've had
Welcome.
family members get it wrong.
There you go. Welcome, Rob. And yeah, you're up. You guys have any discussion on this last time? No?
not last time, but,
I came a couple months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a long time ago.
Did I miss that one too?
yep,
I don't even know.
delinquent.
I got into a bad stretch where like things got thrown at me like, oh, by the way, you got to go to Denver. I flew to Denver, never been to Colorado in my life. I walked out of the airport and into a hotel, sat there for 4 days, and then walked back out of the hotel and then to the airport and flew back. I didn't see anything. I could see the mountains in the distance. That was it.
Yeah, Denver's kind of crazy. Every time I've gone to Denver, it seems like that first night I always get like a
I'll
bloody
share
nose,
with you.
and it straightens out.
The crazy thing about that week in Denver,
All that, so I-
my eyes were. You'd think that
Yeah, what was this?
that I got involved in the local recreational trade that it's well known for. I obviously
Build
didn't.
out.
I was there for business.
That's
My
just the
eyes were
build-
so
it's
red
just
and
the build
bloodshot
out.
the whole time I was there.
part of-
But everybody said it's the altitude and the
It's part
dryness.
of that
It
whole
is.
housing chapter thing.
So
I mean,
They have oxygen bars all over the place.
what's that?
Oxygen bars.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
So that's what I needed.
Might have helped, but I usually, the
Just
first
doing
night though,
an
I'd always
audit.
wake up in the morning with the bloody nose, and then I'd be okay after that.
Interesting. I had a couple adult beverages. That didn't help either. But geez. All right, Rob. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I'm comfortable with speaking about anything you want to talk about. All right. Hello. My apologies, I didn't bring enough of the handouts. I am not a big fan of doing PowerPoints. I sat on a planning board for a lot of years. Eventually, they just sort of glossed over. So I tend to try to run without them. I thought tonight it might help with a little bit of clarity, so that's why I've thrown this up. So the town of Plastow got a HOP grant, Housing Opportunities Grant. And one of the things that was requested as part of that was a build-out analysis. To give the history, I think I did one, Tim may remember, I think it was 2005, I did a build-out analysis for the town of Plastow. And we did another one, I believe, in about 2009 that was slightly different. And so we're revisiting it here. Several months back, I'm trying to think, it was the beginning of November, maybe. We talked about this. I'm still in a holding pattern to see where we want to go from this, so there isn't substantial change from the last time. So I was asked to come back, answer questions that you may have, and see where we can poke this forward so that we can wrap it up. The build-out's close to complete. Ultimately, what we're looking for is typically when we do a build-out analysis, we're trying to answer questions with it. So it's not just a process to do a process, which is what build-outs were in the old days. And those aren't effective. They don't do anything. So we try to use them and employ them to answer questions for the planning board and other town agencies. So what the plan is here is this is a base analysis. So it's looking at today's zoning, today's constraints, and for lack of a better term, creating a worst case scenario or a scenario where we are the most built out possible given the zoning today. The other thing we want to do, and this is the question that falls back to you, is we want to create an alternative scenario. So that's where we look at the assumptions that go into the base build out, typically looking at your zoning and coming up with a wish list or a reconfiguration of that zoning that might help you to answer a question or to ascertain perhaps sensitivity towards the build out process. But in other words, we play with the zoning and the densities allowed within the zoning to help answer a question for the town, i.e. do we want to build more here? And if we made it quarter acre zoning rather than 2 acre zoning, what does that mean for potential households? So that's kind of where we're at. I'm happy to run through the process again quickly if that's what the board would like to see, or I'm happy to just answer questions. So whatever you're looking for here, I'm happy to do.
Again, I was going to say, I was not at the initial meeting. I understand that there was, what was the challenge for the last one? That there was a lack of information regarding the locations or on our town map? Is that kind of where we were stuck at?
No, I think ultimately I'm comfortable with where the process is. I'm bringing it to you to say, do you see issues, errors before we finalize this? And what are you looking for that alternative scenario? So is there a way we want to play with this build out to give you more information? I didn't hear anything. So
Right.
I'm happy to finalize this and put it in stone. But I was asked to come back and speak to you. And that's,
Tom, well, you weren't at the last one. It might be good just a quick run through,
I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
just to make sure everyone's on the same
That's
page.
where we want to go. I'm happy to do that. So I've put my name and number here, so please reach out with questions, comments, concerns. So I start off really basic. What is a build out? It's a tool for planners, to examine the implications of the current land use and zoning practices. So it's basically taking your zoning, throwing it against a wall and saying, what does that mean? The next part is what I'm trying to answer tonight. It allows us to compare various scenarios. So if we say zoning here changes to this and zoning here changes to that, what does that mean? And then sometimes we throw in specific questions. What if we added sewer in this area or something to that effect? And then finally, a build-out analysis shows the maximum growth capacity in a community under current land use regulations, i.e. zoning. So ultimately, we're taking your zoning, throwing it against a wall, throwing the various natural constraints against it and saying, what does that mean on the ground? What does that actually mean?
Can I ask a question with respect to that? Now, you have a max type scenario with respect to what our given zoning is. I mean, so do we have that? I mean, right now, given what our zoning situation is there any variability? I mean, if we're already maxed out, given.
So you're not maxed out.
Okay, well,
there is a build out. There's an additional amount of building that can be allowed here.
Because it might be an assumption, that some people might have an assumption that, Plastout's built up, and so it doesn't matter, if we can't, play up the numbers or not.
Right. So I've been doing build outs for 27 years. I've probably done, 30, 40 of them for different communities across 2 different states. I've never gone into a meeting with a build out presentation where someone on the board did not tell me that in fact their town was built out. I have never done a build out and said, wow, that town is built out. So it doesn't actually happen. So what happens is as you approach build out, there's demand. There's people with pitchforks in here saying this zoning sucks, and you change your zoning.
I've never heard that.
I mean,
No, sorry.
and New York City is not built out. There will be building there. Zoning is going to change to allow more building because we just don't close the doors at some point. The other aspect to this, and I get into this a little bit later, is I'm not considering reuse. So if we take a parcel, take down what's there, subdivide it out, and make 2 parcels out of it, this build out, we can't really calculate into that. So there's always that possibility too. That's part of our assumptions that is not being included. So all of that is to say that, there's always some amount of wiggle room, and part of the build out process is to see how sensitive you are to the various things. So if we change to quarter acre zoning, does that mean 700 new units, or does that mean 16 new units? And that's a huge thing to know as a planning board. Like if someone comes in and says, well, why aren't we at quarter acre zoning? You can say, it doesn't really do much. So that's part of what we're trying to play with here. That's why this is a tool.
So you're saying that if we have 2 acre lots, right, and we said, oh, lot minimum size could be half an acre now, you're saying, all right, well, there's three more lots that we could carve out. But can you really, right? Because it doesn't have
Right.
access to a roadway. It's someone's backyard.
Right.
And to some extent, and I think once we get through this will make a lot more sense. To
Okay.
some extent, I'm calculating that into this.
Okay.
So I am taking out wetlands, I'm taking out conservation land. I'm not really worrying about frontage, and I'll explain why. So I'm taking a lot of those scenarios out. I am including setbacks. I am including a little bit of loss of efficiency as I do this. So those things are being factored in. And so it's not a straight calculation of 4 acres with 2 acre zoning, 2 lots. It's a little more complex than that. That's
Sure.
the beauty of the model.
And maybe you addressed this previously, and I apologize if I'm getting back there. As you're talking, I'm listening, but I'm also sort of looking at these visuals. I see the visuals where it says this is where the stuff is.
Mhm.
Is there a visual that simply takes out where the stuff is and just says these are the spots where I think you can actually get some stuff in there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that in here?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
for you. Yeah.
No, thanks. I appreciate it.
No worries. So this is the really quick, I think we already covered this to some extent. So this is the idea, is we want to look at your map, and I always say, glaze your eyes over and look at it, squint a little bit. And this is where, as planners, you say, these green dots being new units, do we want them down in the southwest? Do we want them up in the northeast? And that's where you're trying to, as planners, say, is this what we're intending? When I give you this as your ultimate build out, you might say, wow, we really don't want the houses down there. We want them up here. And that's the idea of this. This slide is just showing you alternative scenarios. So if you can see here, we have a lot, and I developed it in 4 ways here. So the one, oh my goodness, my computer did not like me there. The one all the way to the left is a no build scenario. The second one there is sort of your typical scenario where we just plop in lots where they fit. And then the last 2 are sort of your compressed zoning scenarios. So where we're building bigger units that take up less space and preserving more open space. So we can do those types of things. We can say what type of building do we want and what are the impacts of that. This is just a quick slide to show different densities. So sometimes it's hard for us to actually imagine what densities mean on the ground. I threw this in for another presentation in the past where we were talking more about the densities. I think it's less relevant here. These are considerations that you need to remember as we talk about this. This is at a town scale. So if you zoom into a specific lot on this build out, it's going to get less and less useful. And what often happens is I come before a board, you look at your house lot and you say, there's no way. And this is not intended to be engineered plans for a build out on a lot. It's intended to look at the gross of a zoning district in essence. We talked a little bit last time about land use versus parcel-based build-outs. There's 2 types of build-outs. In the past, the 2009 that we did for you was what we call the land use build-out. So we just looked at the land uses, we ignored parcel lines, and we said where there's things being removed, they're removed, and where there's blocks of land that are together, you can develop them as if there's no parcel lines. This one is using your parcel lines, so it constrains it just a little bit more. It's 2 different ways at approaching what is probably more theoretical. This is coming from the more strict side. This one should be in bold. It's predicated on your zoning. So it's predicated on today's zoning. If you change your zoning tomorrow, this build out to some extent goes out the window because we're predicating everything on that zoning. Location of density is approximate. So I'm going to be throwing these new units into the parcel that they're appropriate to. I'm not necessarily placing them in the best place of that parcel. I am respecting setbacks. I am respecting buffers. But other than that, I'm kind of just throwing them in there and making them fit. This does not consider redevelopment. We talked about that. So we're not tearing down a house and putting in 4 more. That's a scenario that can certainly happen. It's just part of what you've got to consider. It's really hard to tell a model, hey, be intelligent and say that this one's going away and this one's not. If I tell it to do all lots that way, which I can, you'll get a build out number that's just absurd because it's going to take a lot of large lots and just butcher them into a million pieces. So, and then we covered this at the very beginning. This is a gross simplification. This is not engineering detail, but it's at planning detail. So again, always look a little bit larger than a parcel. There's always a wash from here to there, hopefully. So where I might be saying there's an extra unit here that's maybe there, I'm saying that there isn't one here that's maybe not there. So the numbers do tend to wash to some extent, but you always have to bear that in mind. And then lastly, this is not a non-residential build-up. This is for residential. I will give you non-residential numbers. And the specific reason for this is, and probably not as much in Plastow as other towns, but in our region, we tend to way overzone for non-residential. We're trying to get commercial properties to come in, industrial properties to come in. So we often just say like that area, and we'll put in some basic amounts of zoning, and they build what they build. When I tell it to go with that type of zoning in our region, it just goes wild. So I've had communities where it comes up, so non-residential rather than units, it's reported in square footage.
You're saying if you look at a parcel of land that's zoned industrial and you say, hey, what if we put houses there? It just goes berserk?
If I say non-industrial use. So what it'll tell me is, you can fit 267 million square feet of non-residential use on this parcel, which sure you can fit, no one's building that. Yeah. So everything looks like Broadway and Salem, and that's just not the reality in this region. So this is tailored to be residential. There is a non-residential report out, but it's very basic. And the reason for that is you really need to take in economics. You need to have an economics person come in and actually do some analysis in order for that to be valid. And so it's just not worth it for these. And typically what we're looking for is the residential anyway. So just take that number with a grain of salt. It's there. You know that can be developed in a non-residential. This is a quick slide, and it comes out really horrible on the projectors. Just a quick slide of showing the parcel versus the land use build out. And it's the same polygon here. The blue is the buildable area. And what you're seeing is in a land use build out, those lines don't exist. So on the left side, the parcel lines don't exist, and those dots just fall where they fall. Whereas in a parcel based on the right, you see those green dots falling within parcel lines. So it's just a different way of reporting out. So for some reason, this middle parcel, the big parcel, is not being built on in this parcel based build out. It's just showing that those dots can wiggle quite a bit within that polygon. Not something to worry about here. Quickly, I threw out the process. I often refer to this as rolling out cookie dough and stamping it with cutters. So the idea here is we start with the total land mass of the region or your town. So we roll out the cookie dough of Plastow. We next cut out the existing land uses. So where there's house lots, I'm cutting them out. And if it's a parcel that's already built out, 2 acre zoning, 2 acre lot, and you have a house, I'm calling it built out, and I'm cutting that parcel out of this. Next, we apply constraints. So we're applying things like conservation land deed restrictions. We're applying wetlands, buffers, steep slopes, and others in there, and we're cookie cuttering those out of that dough. So then we say, okay, well, now we've cut out what's being used currently. We've cut out what can't be used. So we have our remaining buildable area. It's that last bit of dough. So we throw that into your zoning. We say, what does the zoning say we can do with this doe? And we're including parcel lines here, and we come out with results. So your zoning is including your maximum density. It's including your setbacks. So ultimately, we come out with our results. Once we have those results, I throw them against a spreadsheet that we have that has some common figures of things like water usage per unit or school-age children per housing unit. And so it just reports out, again, it's a course report of if you have this many new units at build out, you might expect this many more school children. And this is where the tool can get a little bit useful because you say, well, that's way more school children than our school holds, so we need to think. It is not a perfect reporting, and do not build a whole school based on me saying that. But it makes you start to think and question. The little wiggly thing up in the top right, that's just part of the model that's built. It's sort of the flow schema of this model. There's just a lot going on. So this is where the rubber hits the road. This is your existing zoning map. I pulled it off of your website. I have this data built into the build out. This is what your zoning looks like. For the purposes of the build out, some of these things start to get a little muddled in that if there's zones that overlap each other, or if there's things that are effectively changing the density between two zones, I might add another zone that sort of takes the two of them and puts them together. I don't know that there's
The purple area,
Right.
the C2, it actually doesn't go up that far.
This is directly from your website, so.
Well, I know, but it's been updated. It's,
Okay, all right. Let me make sure of what I used in the build out versus what I grabbed. What I used in the build out looked muddled, so I grabbed the one off of your website and threw it into here.
yeah.
So I may have used the correct one, but let me make sure of that.
When you say up that far, you're talking about
It only
towards
got,
the bottom?
I have it right here if you
Does
want
it
to.
start at East Pine?
Okay. Cool.
It stops at Bittersweet Road,
And this is your ICR,
the C2.
the C2. Okay, cool. I will make sure that
Where's
that's what we
Bittersweet?
used in the
Bittersweet.
build out process.
I can't remember where Bittersweet is.
It's across from the library.
Right. Right across from the library, there's a street there.
So the zoning that I pulled for the build out, I pulled straight from your parcels of this year, so it should be accurate. Again, it was a messy looking map within the build out to throw into a presentation that I was going to show you. So I thought I would go to your website, grab your zoning and throw it into your report. That was obviously not the right move. So I'll make sure of that, but I'm pretty comfortable that I used the correct zoning, assuming your parcels have the correct zoning.
Rob, if you look ahead a couple of pages on the new units and build out, you
Yep.
have zoning types.
Yep.
That looks like the correct list of,
Thank you. Yeah, 'cause
Which
that
are
is
more than
showing the
what-
zoning I used. All right.
I mean, we could have the wrong zoning map posted someplace on the website too.
Yeah, well, and this was literally me this afternoon
obvious.
saying I should throw in a clean zoning map
It
and
does have.
Googled Plastow, New Hampshire zoning and clipped it off your website. So that's a mistake that I made. And
I think that's fine. I don't think it changes anything, right?
No.
Necessarily.
I think in the build out, I used the correct one. So, it did come directly from your parcel data. So hopefully that's correct. All right. So this second map, it's ugly as sin, but it's conveying a point here. So what you're seeing here are the various constraints. These are the things that we don't build upon. So it's your unbuildable land uses. That's the pink at the top, or orangey pink salmon. I don't know. I'm sort of colorblind. It's that pink at the top, salmon at the top. Blue is water. Purple is wetlands. Blue, again, is your FEMA flood hazard areas. And that purple is steep slopes, and green is conservation land. A lot of these do overlap each other, and you'll only see one here because as I pile them on, they cover each other up. So in essence, where you see yellow is buildable area remaining. And so as alluded to, there's not a ton of it left,
No.
but there is certainly some.
I don't see any yellow.
I don't see any yellow either.
Is it,
There's
is,
a bit down in that bottom left corner.
The white?
Yeah, white, yellow.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, white.
I get it. All right.
Sorry, and
I'm
it's
looking for-
conveying different on my screen as it is on the
Sure.
projector.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay.
So anything that isn't the colors in the legend.
I
is
get you.
buildable.
Got it.
And it's lots of little things here and there. And that's to be expected in a community like Plastow. So that's what we've got. And this next map conveys it a little bit better. So this is all of those little areas now colored by their zone, by their zoning. And so this is showing those remaining buildable areas. Where there's a black dot is a unit that's allowed on that parcel. Where there's a green triangle, that's a non-residential zoning area. And so that's just showing that I'm putting some amount of non-residential capacity into that. So if you look down towards the southwest there, you're seeing a lot of units being allocated.
So I have a question, right? I'm looking at my road
Mhm.
because I know it, right?
Mhm.
And I see a little plop of a house that's never going to go there. It doesn't have access to a roadway. You mentioned frontage,
yeah.
doesn't have roadway access. It's a landlocked lot that it won't. So
And this is part of this hits two things. So it's a great point to bring up. The first is this is the gloss over and don't look at your specific road. But the bigger point there is, like you said, I don't use road frontage. And the reason for that is, and I had this happen when I chaired a planning board. We said, you can't build there. There is no frontage. And the engineer came back with the tip of a cul-de-sac to give him exactly enough frontage to be able to build that lot. And it didn't affect the lot enough to then reduce the minimum amount needed to put on a house. So in other words, you can always plop in a road, or a lot of times you can plop in a road. So I use a factor of 80% buildable. So if I say that's a 2-acre lot, you're only getting 80% of that 2 acres to accommodate zoning. And part of that is to cover driveways, roads, and other such things. So that's part of why we ignore frontage. And the other part is we just don't know where roads are going to go in the future. So rather than trying to draw in fake roads that we surmise might happen, we accommodate it with that 20% legal factor.
So the bulk of the availability is kind of behind Red Oak Circle, up in that Haverhill corridor.
Yeah, the country
Yeah, it'll
club
be
is
the
in that
country
area.
club.
Yeah.
And that is one of the questions is, do you want to leave things like country clubs in there? They are buildable. And that person, in fact, 1-2 miles from my house went up for sale and had a proposal for several hundred houses. And that's a planning board call for a situation like this. Do you want to include that as buildable, or do we want to cut it out and say that's never going to get built? And that's a tough question.
No, I mean, didn't someone come in here with conceptual design
Yeah.
review?
Yeah,
They were going to.
Yeah.
for part of it, not the whole thing.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's nice to have in there to be able to say, if that scenario comes up and they say, hey, I can build, 200 units, you say, oh, it's probably more like 120. Anyways, and that's a call that I've always given to planning boards about whether you want to include those or not. The other is open space for existing conservation developments. So oftentimes there's open space associated with a development. I would say as often as not, there's not actual protections on it. And they can be built, most likely will not be built. And I've always given towns the option of, do you want to include those open spaces as buildable or non-buildable? And I've had towns say no, I've had towns say yes, and I've had towns say this one, and this one, but not this one and this one. So I'm open to either of those. But again, that's where you need to inform me.
Yeah.
I get the impression that everybody's kind of looking at certain little plots and going, yeah, it's nothing's ever going to go there. I'm not sure. Do I have that wrong?
You
Like I
have,
s-
do you have open space with where you live?
Right.
Yeah.
And I know Bill does.
Yeah.
How many acres that's a lot over?
Yeah, including the houses and everything, you had to have a total of 33 acres.
Yeah.
Because it's an acre per house.
So because you're in a PRD, I'm in a PRD, right? And we had to have some of the open space
Some of
to,
the property goes all the way over to Smith Corner. where
Yeah,
I
it
live.
does, behind my house. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's never gonna be touched.
it's kind of wet back there too.
but what's
So
interesting,
if
That's
it's
what
wet,
happens.
it will be taken out.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's just open space and it's doesn't have a restriction to put it into granite, it is not being included. I don't mind including it, but it doesn't actually have protection.
but it was the open space that was required for them to be able to get the,
Just sit there.
become a PRD.
Right.
You had to have, become a PRD, you had to have X amount of space then also added to be open. So can it even be built on for our zoning?
Not right now, but
No, they want
say
to
all
change
of
the zoning.
the houses burned down and they put them back up again.
I'll know who to blame.
Well, and
In theory, we could change our zoning and say, by the way, if you have open space, you can now carve out lots on there, potentially.
I mean, open space is
What they're
only as
looking for.
protected as what's written in the deed for it.
Yeah.
So in theory, they could come back at you and say, there's nothing in our deed saying this open space is in fact protected and unbuildable. Now, there might be language in there saying it's unbuildable, and then you could say it's unbuildable, but a lot of times it just says open space associated with this subdivision. I can tell you the one for my subdivision does not necessarily protect future building. Everyone wants that to be the case and believes that. It's not necessarily the case, just like golf courses in some scenarios. Another great example of that is Phillips Exeter land in Exeter and Kensington. Everyone would like that to always be open space land, always be trails. Phillips Exeter very specifically does not put deed restrictions on it because someday they might want or need it. And so I have a hard time removing that from a build out in those communities. And I'm not saying that for open space. I'm not hoping any of your open space gets developed. Just please be aware of it.
There's a community on Sweet Hill that has a plan that has been sitting kind of dormant for years. It doesn't have those as available lots. It's interesting.
It's good because he hasn't done much with it.
It's true. I mean, they're available technically, but it's the builder didn't capture it, I guess, is what I thought was interesting.
Or is it possible that there's a constraint on it? It could be steep or have.
No, it's got an approved site plan
All right.
for 55 units.
Okay.
It's just not listed on here. It's just blank.
So it's showing as undevelopable on here.
Yeah, if I look at this map with all the pinks and stuff,
Yep.
it just says unbuildable land uses 2015, where the roadway
Okay.
would be.
So did they perhaps start to build or clear the area of brush?
Yes.
Because
They did.
disturbed
They
land
did.
would often be removed within the land use. So that's probably why. So where I see, so land use is built off of an aerial photo. So I'm looking at an aerial photo. When I see it cleared, I say, something's going there. So then I remove it as
Okay.
disturbed land. So that's
And it is
probably-
all clear.
It's cleared, yeah. I
So that's why.
don't think he should have, but he did. And,
So he's kind of making me look good here though. So
Yeah.
I'll give him credit.
all right. Okay. Got it.
What part of Sweet Hill was that?
At the very top.
Very top.
Very top.
Yep.
Near Crane Crossing?
And it's
No, that's
still
good.
there.
No, Crane Crossing is,
And part of the request tonight is find these things and point them out to me.
But you're
and send
thinking
them.
of where it is, it's basically, it's pretty close to Partridge.
Okay, I know, yeah, I know where
That's at the
Park
top.
is.
Right
Sweet
there,
Hill
it's
Road.
pretty close to Partridge, heading towards Greenfield.
Right.
okay, so this is my road. This is Smith Corner Road. This is Sweet Hill here.
It's up toward
So
the top.
this is where Bill lives.
Okay. Cool.
This is where Tom lives.
10 years now?
So it's like right here. I think that little squiggle.
Cool.
near
And,
his
and these
road
are the
again.
kind of things that are going to help me a lot so
Yeah.
that we can move that into the final draft. I'll know that that's
I think
there.
it's got like a little squiggle for the beginning of the road there.
Yeah, because there is a little,
There
it's
is.
private, but
Yeah.
there's 5 homes up there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And then this next map, this is sort of the results. So this is looking at the tiny little red dots are existing houses. please understand that this scale is not appropriate for a house. Those are very large houses if you were to look at it. So it looks a little more overwhelming than it should. The black dots are even more overwhelming and not to scale, but it just gives you an idea of that total distribution across the town, so what that would look like. Again, this is that squint map where you say, I see a lot of density here, I see a lot of density there, and I'd rather see it move up here. So this is just the play with all of that.
All right, so the red dots are existing and the black dots are where you see homes.
Because that would be old.
Right.
So I'm just asking the other members of the board, there's a couple little clusters of black dots in the middle of this map. Are those, any of those existing plans?
Whereabouts?
In
The little
middle
black
of the map,
dots.
There's,
Yeah.
Like here?
Right there?
yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
a little bit over to the left, a little bit, yeah, that one, over to the right, that one, and that one, those
That
three
one
little
right there.
clusters.
And that's Palmer Woods, isn't it?
Is one of those Palmer Woods?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so, if I'm.
So the middle one, the middle one,
it's already
top
being
left
taken.
one. Yeah, the middle one. Yeah. That's Palmer Woods?
And did that come
That's
since
built now.
2015, I'm assuming?
Oh,
It's going on right now.
Yeah.
yeah, it's going on
So-
right now.
So existing units is coming off of my 2015 data,
Sure.
updated to 2020 between the last meeting and this one, so it's not reflected on this map. So you'll see that fall out.
What about,
What about
the,
north that?
what about the other one on Sweet Hill?
Yeah, the one that,
PRD.
that guy had.
The one across from like where the water tower is roughly?
Yeah, it's like just the other side of Partridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, there's 7 homes right at the top, and then everything
And then
behind
everything-
that's gonna be open.
Is that on here?
Well, there's a couple of black dots.
Because that's still ongoing too.
Yeah.
So if you
We
could,
do have a lot
The road's
ongoing,
not there,
right.
but it's right.
if someone could highlight the ongoing and send
Okay.
that to me, that would be
Yep.
huge. The stuff that you're seeing today was off of what was our latest aerial photos when I did the first draft of the build out, which was 2015. Subsequent to coming here, I got 2022 aerial photos, 2021 aerial photos, and I updated the red dots from that. So you will see that change in the subsequent revision. Anything you give me will also be in there. So that would be hugely helpful to me.
It's just someone, I'm still like, I still look at this thing and get sideways sometimes. And again, like Tim knew Palmer Woods was on here and my brain did.
Like
No, I would
Tim's
never
or
have known that's where it was.
Yeah. Does anybody,
Like Tim's wheelhouse
does
or D.
does anybody want, okay. I was going to say, does anybody want to spearhead providing that additional insight onto whatever unique circumstances that would alter some of these things? Or allow you to update it?
And I mean, even if it's a circle saying blue, look here, there's more, and red saying, look here,
Okay.
probably not so much. I can run with that too.
Should we see if that's something she can do? Probably.
Yeah, we can see if Dee is willing to do that. I bet she'd be one of the best people to do it.
Sure. Or if anybody else wants to, I mean,
Or should we ask her to
Do you
do it
wanna
after
do it,
we
Tim?
do the 2022 data?
No, before.
Before?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I guess, again, you know,
I can give her a revised of this map with the 2022 on it.
yeah, if there's an approved plan, but it hasn't been built yet, or if
Yeah,
there's-
because North Ave too.
I said
right?
North Ave, that was the other one.
yeah, where's North Ave? It's, again, I get turned around looking at these things. So it's down,
Well, and do you
Down
guys
here.
sunset approved plans? I know that was a thing for a long time.
Where are we looking?
So my concern would be if you start taking out things that haven't started building and they don't build, we're quickly removing.
Oh, no, these already
we
have
a
houses.
zoning amendment.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
long as
How
they're
about
built,
substantial
if you're telling me take
No.
out these because it's approved.
They've still got some more to go, but they are
Okay,
well built.
Yeah,
Cool.
only a
built.
few more.
Do we have a zoning amendment to allow for sunsetting of old plans?
We follow substantial completion.
Yeah.
Don't know the exact wording.
So then that's coming up in
All right.
our,
I have it written down.
awesome.
Okay.
Where's the zone
All
Ave?
At one point, I was
North
State
Okay,
RSA
North
that
Ave
you
is
had
right
to
here in
do
the corner, right, Laurie?
Yeah.
Ave? Right.
Huh?
Isn't it in the corner right here?
Over here. Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Keep your hands.
I think it's over here, because
Yeah.
this is the
Yes,
country
that's what I
club.
said.
So I think it's over here.
Yeah, because
Because
I was
I
looking,
think that's North Ave right
that's like
there.
Red Oak
Right.
Circle or something over here, right?
That's what I
Yeah.
said.
And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, that's 108.
which, yeah,
The
so
way
if
to
you cut
drop
across,
and
you get over
Navigatable.
Yeah,
to North Ave. And
125, 121.
So you're saying that
right,
Oh,
right
there's a
here, right
specific
in here,
reason
yeah.
why I make
It's
it
all
That's
back
where they're
here, right?
building, yeah.
navigable.
did he,
Because
did he,
what happens
how far
is
back
you
did he
watch
go?
everyone trace with their
He's
finger
gone way
and
back.
drive
Yeah.
to their
Is he
house
somewhere around
Ways,
here?
and
yeah.
then criticize their
Somewhere.
Way
house.
back.
So,
Somewhere.
So a lot of that's.
so I try to make
Yeah.
it a little more nebulous.
A lot of this.
And those are big lots, right? Those
Oh,
are
my
2 acre
God.
lots.
LDR,
They built quite a
2
bit
plus,
already.
right?
Yeah, it's like, some of them are like 4.
4? Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's.
Yeah, but a lot of it's like wet, so they can't do anything
Yeah.
with it.
Oh,
It's just how they had to
okay,
put the
okay.
house.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
It's not
the
like they're gonna
houses are
have-
on-
Yeah,
right.
you can see on the map, you can see on the
Yeah.
next map, where
Oh.
you can see where the water is
Oh, okay.
that he's
Okay.
contending
Yep.
with.
Right. Yeah, up here.
I can't see
So
that.
that's
Yeah,
the tough thing,
Mount
right? So this
Forest. That's like
cluster
400 and something
down
acres,
here in the
isn't it?
bottom
Yep.
is
Yeah. No, there's a lot
in the
there.
process of
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
developed
Yeah, we have a lot
with
already.
large lots.
Yep. And in this map, you kind of see that, and you see why, which is why I put this map together. It's a horrible map in that there's 98 pieces of data all trying to show and play at once. But when you look down in the southwest area and you see where those black dots are being plopped, they're
There's a
being
reason
plopped
for
all
that.
around the river, all around the steep slopes, all around the wetlands. And it shows you why they came out so wonky. It's fitting them as best it can.
Yep.
Part of the model process with the computer, and this is way more powerful than when I started doing these, is for each lot that I throw to it, once I cut out the cookie dough, so to speak, it tries 100 times using 100 iterations of configuring dots using your setbacks to fit as many as it can. And it reports out to me in 2 ways. One is doing the mathematics. So if there's 88 acres and it's 2 acre zoning, there's 44 units. But it also reports back to me how many it gets after it includes setbacks. And it does an amazing job fitting those 44. It'll come out 43. Anyways, it really tries to put them in there, and it does a good job.
So how many units did it spit out?
Let me grab that.
Okay.
And it wasn't finalized, so I was careful with putting that number out too much. So the numeric, where I do the straight calculation, was 281 new units. But once I did the setbacks, it was 241 new units at build up.
And out of, how many units do we have in town?
And that I have written down, but I don't.
So
have
as a percentage of total
About
units?
2,800, I think, dwelling units.
So you're saying we have about 10% more buildable land?
I don't know off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, it's sounding reasonable.
So we're 90% built out. Is that, am I
Given
hearing
today's
that?
zoning.
Yep.
Always use that, given today's
Yeah.
zoning.
Right.
Because someone's gonna get you in 10 years when they say, well, we were 90% built out, and what happened? Because, yeah,
So-
The tough thing though is if you update with the North Ave development, what's that called, Abbey Road or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Abbey,
Road and
Brady.
Yep.
Yeah, if you add those in, which is that cluster in the bottom, you add in Palmer Woods, you're
Quite a bit.
taking out probably 40 or 50 or 60 unit
yep.
lots there. So now we're probably under 200.
Right.
And I still think that there's some unbuildable lots that are, like I said, there's a weird lot behind my house that it's just,
Certainly, and I mean, the response to that, and this isn't me trying to be a jerk,
yeah,
but
no.
the response to that is, there's a place where I'm saying it's wetlands and it's not putting a unit there on the
Okay.
other side of town. They sort of wash out, not really, but they come close. So there are over reports and there are under reports in this. That's why I'm so careful about, like, if I did the same thing in my community, I could find 6 spots around my house where I was like, ah, but there's places where it's going to be wrong in the
Sure.
other direction. So, yeah.
And we are actively talking about changing C2 to MDR, so.
And I mean, that could very well be your alternate scenario. So we say this is our base build out. Now what happens if we change this one zone from this to this?
Yeah.
And it changes that density, what does that mean? And that's a nice little report to have if you're bringing it to town meeting.
This is a tough one, and this kind of comes under the redevelopment section is
Okay.
we added an overlay in our C1 zoning.
Right.
Yeah.
That allows for mixed use, which previously wasn't allowed for. So in theory, someone could, put a retail
down,
shop and then above it put, some nice apartments
Yep.
or condos or something. Nobody's done it yet, but
Yeah.
that's really where I think the but the
Maybe possible.
Well, and
chunks.
the other part that isn't playing into this is ADUs. So if I tell it you can build out ADUs, it just assigns one per every house and
Yeah.
doubles everything. So that's why we don't do it, but it's also a caveat that you need to remember with this build out because that number can change quite a bit with ADUs. So I guess going forward, what I would say is think about what that alternative scenario is. And typically it's a changing of density of an area. And it doesn't have to be an existing zone. You can draw a big circle and say, Rob, make these this much more dense or this much less dense, make this less dense, make this more dense, then give us the numbers. And it gives you that idea. And it might just be take this zone and make it a quarter the density. And that gives you an idea of the sensitivity of build out to that zoning. So think about that. Get back to me with any revisions that you'd like to see in this. Do you want to remove the golf course? Do you want to remove some open space associated with developments? So find those revisions that you want to see and have Dee or Victoria bring them back to me. Goodness.
Does, Lori, is your proposed amendment,
Yes.
is that going to materially affect, some of these calculations?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I don't think that
It
there's.
doesn't
Well,
affect any
there isn't
density.
really that much there to build.
The C due to MDR?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
but
think,
just,
I don't think it really affects. I mean, there's all houses there and
I guess if you looked at,
Established.
let's just say this map, for example, all that green was not green, but rather just, available land, right? Kind of like down where the golf course is. You would say, okay, what's the zoning? Could we actually change some of our zoning to allow for more units to go in there? Like instead of saying, hey, scrap the 2 acres per lot, let's go to half an acre or whatever, or one. I can see where this would be really helpful, but we don't have swaths of land to,
Right.
we have spots
Right.
of land.
And maybe the tool aspect of this becomes to say something that you wouldn't ever do, but it gives you an idea of the sensitivity. So Rob, take the R1 and make it 1/20th or 20 times the density. Take it from 2 acres to 1/10 of an acre. And then we see just how sensitive that is. Is there so little land left that means 2 additional units? And so then if someone comes in and says, hey, you're zoning me out of my property, you can say, we could drop that zoning to nothing and you can't build.
Yeah.
That's a valuable thing to know as a planning board.
It's
So-
almost like, would we add, I was just talking about Florida a minute ago. We lived in Florida and it has no, it's
There
it's
is no
terrible.
property.
I mean, it's nice, but it's terrible. Like the 0 lot line communities
Right.
that have the same home
Ridiculous.
3 different ways and 3 different colors.
Mhm.
I don't ever see that happening here, but I think it's starting to happen in other areas, right? With, 1/10 of an acre,
You're seeing more and more of it.
0.15 of an acre.
Yep.
It's a,
These are also towns that have like a gravel pit, like Peterborough had so many, and an old gravel pit, stuff like that. Where is our actually available land?
where's our industrial again? Where's one-
Industrial is up by where the warehouse is now,
No, I know. I'm trying to get my bearings on this
Yeah.
map.
but there is a lot right next to it. They still could use
Where's our
for industrial.
125?
So it's the tiny amount of yellow in that
125
Yep.
right there.
Right up there.
all the way to the east.
Oh, that's where it is.
Yep,
Yeah.
right there with the
Yeah, there
yellow.
we go. Then I get turned around.
So, yeah, right there.
The one other thing that I would throw out to you here is, where I have conservation lands listed on here, I'm using the Granite Conservation Lands data set. That is not always the most, it is the most comprehensive that we have with any amount of backing data. Oftentimes, there are pieces of property that are conserved within a community that Granite does not use, include, or consider. So that might be like your park area. I don't know if that's in Granite. I think it is. But sometimes there are things left off. So if you see any conservation areas, and this is where sometimes you might kick it to the Conservation Commission and say, is something missing? And they might circle it, or you throw it to Tim because he knows too. But yeah, so consider that too as you come back.
Did we hear anything about prime wetlands?
I reached out to Mark West twice. I didn't get anything back from him. I don't think it's going to substantially change much the way that Mark designates prime wetlands, and he and I have worked together for years and years and years and years, is he takes the wetlands data, starts with that, goes out in the field, refines it. So what you're going to find is the prime wetlands will be a refinement of what I'm using here. In other words, it'll probably take out some and add some here and there. I don't think it'll substantially change this build out. I'm happy to reach out to him again. I'm guessing he's just underwater with the amount of work.
Tim, what do you think on that, since you're the,
I don't,
you understand that better than we do?
I don't think it would have little or no impact on the build out.
Okay.
Now, we know from the last couple of weeks, there's a lot of people that are not happy. So more than likely, we won't put that warrant until the 2025.
The prime wetland more?
We pushed that off last year though, too,
You
right?
know,
Yep.
It's
What-
it's actually been since like 2020, 21.
So what's the
Well,
reason for it
It's
being
been a
pushed
few
out?
years.
I get that the social media pitchforks and torches movement is out, but
the public hearing on the prime wetlands is tomorrow night, 7.
That's right, yep.
So we'll see what happens there, but
I actually spent a silly amount of time trying to find them because I saw that you were working on them in 2019. And I was like, well, where are they?
Yeah.
And come to find out they weren't adopted. So I spent a silly amount of time trying to find them.
Right, I think it was 2019 that, but
So-
we had
so
been
we're
talking
looking-
about it for a while, so,
That's when
yeah.
it started.
We're looking at putting it off because of what? A groundswell of negativity or lack of messaging or
It's also getting pretty late.
getting pretty late?
is it inherently ready? Or is it,
yeah, the material is already.
Everything's on the town website.
yeah, I thought so too. All right, well, I mean, I guess,
The public hearing's tomorrow night.
yeah, I guess we'll wait to see what
Just
happens
have to
there.
wait and see what happens there.
So that's why the public hearing was, what's scheduled, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, it's scheduled to tomorrow, because after that, then you could go forward with everything, right? That would meet everything, having that public hearing.
I thought the public hearing was on Facebook. That's usually what,
Yeah, actually,
it's usually the only place public gets involved.
it's true.
Does your build out take into account black striker migratory trails?
I have not done that. My apologies.
So, all right, well, I guess, on a serious note, I know the board, and this is jumping past the build out, but on the topic of prime wetlands, I know the board was looking to try to finalize that after pushing it off for a year or two now. So we'll wait for the public hearing
Wait and
and
see what it's.
with the sentiment. Will that, the board can move forward regardless, right? But who's sparing the prime wetlands Conservation Commission?
Yeah.
So we'll wait for a report from the Conservation Commission.
I think it's going to go to the selectmen.
It does go to the selectmen first?
I always thought
Well,
it came to the planning board. I didn't think it went, but I've been told the selectmen, so.
I don't know, maybe this isn't
I don't
the right
know.
time to talk about it, so we'll just wait till
Yeah.
something comes of that.
I believe they go through the CC and then they're reported to your select board to be adopted. So a final public hearing, but the CC will adopt them first. That's my recollection. when I sat on the board.
CC,
Conservation.
goes to
you're
the-
talking about.
Conservation.
Yeah.
goes to select board, and then
They
planning
put it
board
on the
drafts
Put it
and
on
forwards
there.
as
And
a,
then it goes to the town to vote.
Yeah,
Ultimately, it goes to the town.
right.
so our
Right.
activity in this is to,
We're not doing anything,
We're
the
not doing
planning board.
anything.
I know.
We're out of it.
well, it would have been to approve it as a warrant. We would have proposed it as a warrant article, or no?
No, conservation is,
I mean, we could have gone either way. But
They
we,
chose to do
but we
conservation.
decided that it was, since it wasn't, I mean, it was obviously land use related, but it wasn't,
Okay.
Not an emergency.
for whatever reason, we decided, we thought it would be easier to have the selectmen sponsor the warrant article,
Okay.
which they agreed to do, so we haven't. But, you know, like I say, we'll see what happens tomorrow night.
Good luck.
Yep.
It's easy to include, so not a big deal. I don't think it is.
I have, does any of this include town-owned property or the school district property?
I don't, because oftentimes, same scenario as the open space for developments. Most of the time, there's no actual protection, and I've seen plenty of
Right, on town.
fields, old schools and other such things get parsed out to be, new apartments, new buildings. So I tend to suggest not doing that, but again, you might have a scenario like your park area where that's just not going to develop. So I'm happy to do whatever you'd like on either of those. I believe in the 2005 build out, that was one of our substantial revisions, is we added a lot of town-owned property into it.
Yeah.
After the first draft, but I would leave that to you. So you tell me what you want to be constrained, and I'm happy to throw it in there, but I would consider it well before you threw it in.
I guess my question is this, right? So if we got down, let's just say, to throw a number out there, we came up and said there's 200 units available for you. But then we said, well, yeah, hey, this is not a realistic one or something. Do you carve it up and say under current zoning you can get 100, under revised zoning you can get 200? Like, you know what I mean? Are we going to get to that point?
That's kind of the idea of that second scenario, is to say, what could this mean if we played with this, and this? Not as part of this grant, because we're close to the end here, but we could certainly come up with a contract and maybe even part of the circuit riding to do additional scenarios. The model is built, so for me to throw in a new density or change this density to that and run another scenario is not a huge cost at this point. So it's always something that we can talk about. Building the model is the expensive part. So keeping it and using it and employing it as you see fit is not a bad thing to do. I always ask planning boards to do that. We don't ever do it.
The LDR 2-acre requirement, I think over time, right, we allowed for PRDs to get around the 2-acre requirement. We allowed for ADUs to add additional capacity. We added an overlay to try to take land that previously we didn't allow for housing to add. Just trying to think if the board has the appetite and the desire to try to go in and say, let's change some of the other criteria about our zoning, and that will it be impactful to actually get something done? I don't know.
What I feared you were about to ask me is, if we got this down to 0, what does that mean? And the reason why I'm fearful of that is because if we got this approaching 0, you're going to start having people coming here saying, how come there's nothing buildable, and why is my land not buildable? We need to talk about zoning. That's a nice proactive move, is to say, what are those conversations going to look like?
Yeah, was it New York that was
Yeah.
the governor there was going to try to enforce zoning, and everybody's like, gave her the middle finger?
Yeah.
Because it was going to impact the wealthier neighborhoods, probably wealthier communities. I get it.
Yeah. So anyways, this is where we're at. Come at me with anything. Feel free to give me a phone call if you have a question. Like I said, I've been doing this a long time. I should be able to get you an answer, and I would love to see this go forward with a couple iterations that help you do something. So.
Well, I would say for the PRD ones, it is in the zoning that they require 50% open space. And I'm not sure, once we approve it, then that sort of forces them to form some kind of homeowners association, condo association. I'm not sure how that open space land is deeded. I think maybe each condo owner or homeowner gets 1/20, or, if there's 20 units, so you get 1/20th of that. But how the deeds themselves are structured, I don't know.
In my experience in living in one, I've seen everything under the sun. So I've seen where the open space property is owned 1/20th by all 20 people. I've seen where it's parsed out as a unbuildable area of the individual deeds. I've seen where the developer promised that there would be a homeowners association and nothing ever materialized, and everyone just sort of honored the fact that it was there. I've seen where developers came back afterwards and tried to develop. I was part of a lawsuit on one of those because I was on the planning board at the time. So he felt that he should be able to develop it because no one ever did anything with it. So I've seen everything under the sun for those, and that's why I'm hesitant to just throw them in wholesale. But if you're comfortable with that, I'll do it by all means. So I think my answer is yes, there's everything. And rarely have I seen where there's an actual protection saying this property is deed restricted to building in perpetuity. And I'm guessing with a good lawyer and a little bit of effort, you might be able to get by that. So
I guess one thing we can do is get the updated approved plans that maybe aren't considered on this, right? So Abbey Road / North Ave, Palmer Woods.
Yeah, we got to get those on there.
Anything else that we might want to consider? I guess then the other thing is, I'd be curious to see, just because something's got 4 acres or 2 acres, and this model thought that you could throw some homes in there in a future case scenario. I'm reticent to think that that's that realistic, at this time. But I'm almost curious to see what it's like. Current zoning, you can get 100 homes. Future zoning, if you got really creative, you get 300 out of it. I don't know.
yeah. Well, and I have seen scenarios where I've done build outs and we did remove the this farmer loves his land and respects his land and will never develop his land, and then sadly that farmer dies and his children sell it off and it becomes 28 houses. So you have to be a little careful with that one.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a parcel of land like that. Call it a golf course, right? That's more realistic to become a home than someone who has 2.5 acres in the backwoods, or
And I mean, if you guys want to go through those and say like, hey, this is really unrealistic, I'm cool with that. And when I did Salem's build out, they did have someone go through the map and find these 2-acre slivers or whatever they were, and we called it the Salem removed unbuildable land or something wiggly like that. Yep. And they stamped out all those little things and we called it good. A lot of them were also things like a polygon that was 6 feet wide and 7,000 feet long, and it made enough acreage to be buildable, but you're not actually going to be able to fit a house.
Yeah.
In theory, the model should be taking those out because it can't fit a house with setbacks. So.
Yeah.
What kind of time frame are we talking about?
I honestly have no idea when this grant ends. Do you?
The HOP grant needs to be completed by July, this end of fiscal year.
Oh, okay.
Please, let's not do this
So we
until
do.
July.
No, we
No.
do have time.
Yeah.
No.
Because, I mean, I think, I don't know what Dee's vacation schedule is, but over the last many years, she doesn't take it during the year for whatever reason. And then, all of a sudden, like, expect to hear from her shortly that she'll be gone December 15th through January 2nd. So, again, I don't know what her vacation schedule is, but she usually takes a lot of it at the end of the year. And some of these, questions like marking up the map, we could do that pretty easily with D. But, it takes an afternoon. Until after the first of the year. I don't think those times are available.
Right.
I'm not moving on this until the first of the year, probably.
Yeah, okay.
We're down a GIS person right now, so my workload is a little wonky and wiggly, so.
We have to
I
get
think everybody's
amendments
got
done,
like
too.
a week and a half left, and then we're all taking our brains off, right?
Right, we've got amendments to do too.
No, this is the apex of my December right now. I'm done after this. I'm
There you go.
checking. Don't tell my boss.
Okay.
But anyways, I thank you all, and I'm glad for the discussion. And please do feel free to reach out. This is where I get dweeby and dorky, so I love hearing about it. So, thank you all.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
for coming back.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
I think we understood a little bit better this
Yes.
time than the
Yep.
first time you came, so that helped. Oh, okay, thanks. Yes, you can, seeing you wrote all over
I hope
it.
you all get out of here at some reasonable hour.
Me too.
Yeah.
Not looking to be here very long tonight. Get up and leave.
Again, and I see Mr. Kane's in the audience. I know,
Yes, can we let him come in?
well,
Well, we're gonna be going on amendments now. So
Yeah.
It's gonna be forever.
yeah, Dan, I don't want to keep you for too long. If you want to jump in, why don't we do that quickly? I've just asked that, be time sensitive because we do have a lot of stuff. A couple notes I just want to throw out there is a few things. Number one, just a reminder for the board is that I understand that there's a forthcoming application, so any discussion about any specifics of the land, no matter how you feel or anything else is, I think we've all figured out that just discussion about anything that could be relative to a future application or current application is just off the table to be safe. It just takes away any question marks or vulnerability. So no opinions about land, no opinions, yes or no, anything about that is appropriate. What else? He's welcome to talk about anything he wants. But again, we need to just be extremely neutral, and it's fair. It's more just to be fair for the whole process and make sure that it all goes smoothly should any future applications come before us. So if you want to jump, do you want to jump in, Dan, and chat?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I recuse myself from this spot.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, we're not making any decisions.
Yeah, I was going to say,
We're not voting.
Yeah, we're not voting on
yeah,
anything.
this is just a discussion. You can, okay. It's not required, but if you feel comfortable doing that, then have at it. All right.
I'm going to start.
Sure, yeah, state your name and,
Yeah, no, I know the drill by now.
there you go.
My name's Dan Kane. I reside at 64 Main Street in Plastow, and I'm the owner of Sweet Hill Farm, located at 82 Newton Road, Plastow. All I wanted to do tonight was, I believe you've seen my proposed amendment creating an agritourism overlay district. And I was hoping to have a dialogue as to just that amendment and to see if I could answer any questions. I did put a fair amount of thought to it. It is tethered to the RSAs. It's also tethered to actual zoning ordinances in other parts of the country. I primarily used the agritourism zoning ordinance for Thurston County in Washington State, but I pulled out of Hampton, New Hampshire, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I really looked throughout the country to see what was done with agritourism, and then tethered that back to the New Hampshire RSAs.
I'll just ask the board, typically if a citizen's petition, I forget the process, right? So a citizen petition goes to town hall.
It needs to be filed with the town first.
So it gets filed with the town,
Mhm.
then it comes to the board, and I've seen it once or twice, right? So someone comes and says, hey, I'm presenting this on the ballot.
Yep.
And all we do is we hear it and we
Give it a thumbs
we
up
don't
or a
discuss
thumbs
it. We
down.
just give a recommendation, a vote whether or not we would recommend it to the citizens.
Yeah.
Right? That's typically all we do.
Mhm.
So it hasn't been filed?
No,
No.
not only has it not been filed, it hasn't been written.
Okay. I guess,
I intentionally didn't
discussion.
write it. All I wanted to do was
yeah,
give the planning board a chance to weigh in and think about it.
okay. I guess the only thing I think, and this is a general term about citizen petitions, that the intent of a citizen's, in my mind, could be, you could agree with a citizen's petition in principle. Again, this is just a general conversation. But the way something could be written could be counter to our zoning or could impact our other aspects of our zoning. And so I'm just thinking out loud, right? Like if someone came and presented a citizen's petition, I could say, hey, I get what they're trying to do here, but the way it's written would be problematic to our current zoning, and therefore my vote to recommend that citizen petition might be one way or the other, even though I may agree differently about does that make sense?
Well, just to one point, if that's the concern, that if you have a citizen petition and let's say it runs contrary to, maybe what we're trying to do here, in terms of existing zoning and things like that, we could always take that, have it not go the citizen petition route, and we could take it on as something that we would be interested in doing and have a little more control, because ultimately it would be reviewed by town council, and those types of concerns would be highlighted, and perhaps there'd be recommendations to say this would be incompatible with existing zoning, or it's going to conflict in some fashion. So, I mean, that's always a consideration, that if we want to avoid perhaps sort of a clash of intents, we could just own the process. I mean, if it's a well thought out idea, if it's something we want to consider in terms of agritourism in Plastow, then we could collaboratively work to do something that works for everyone.
Yeah, I would say for anybody that approached us with, I think this kind of happened. Somebody approached the board with an idea about some zoning changes in a prior year, and we didn't necessarily disagree with it. We just said, hey, you came at the 11th and a half hour. We've already put the work in for these other amendments again, and tonight we have our own zoning amendments to go over that we've been working on for a couple months now, or at least people have. So the timing would be challenging because it's it sounds like there would be some work required for any new citizens petition that might come before us at this point in time. Excuse me, any new concept that someone would want us to consider for us to put the work in for. So,
Could we just ask generically? I mean, if you want to just kind of give a high level idea of what it is that you might have been considering.
I'll just say this, and that's
Okay.
great. I think if he's going to speak to his specifics of his petition, I think that this is just an audio only for us. We'll hear him out. I don't know that I'm not saying I love this, but I think that just to be safe for him and us, I think that we got to limit our back and forth interaction, right?
Yeah, a point of clarification, it's not the agritourism ordinance that we're afraid of talking about. It's because we have an application at our next meeting. So there is some conflict of interest.
Yeah.
But we could work together and do an agritourism ordinance change. It's just the fact that there's an active application coming to us at the next meeting.
I get you. So if we say, for example, if someone said,
It's not great timing.
yeah, I get it. I'll try to put this in generic terms. So if somebody said, I want this to be blue, and then the application is whether it's
And then
going to
let's
be red
talk
or
about
blue.
how we can make it blue before I come in for a proposal to make this blue. Yeah.
The two things could conflict each other. And I think the biggest thing I want is everything to be clean, right? Because I don't want to have any issues procedurally for your sake, so that we get stuck. Like that's just my thought. Go ahead.
I just would like to know more about agorism,
Yeah,
like,
let's
that's what
open up
I
the floor.
want to
Tell us
know.
about it.
I want to know what this is, because how does anybody know to vote on anything if they don't know what exactly is?
I think for everybody's sake, let's just keep the specifics away from anything that might conflict with your application.
Yeah,
And let's
no,
just talk
I'm
about
not
it. Let's have a
talking
conversation about
I'm not talking
agritourism.
about the application.
Yeah,
I
I
would like
think
to
that's,
know,
I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
We're just, we're
Right.
talking about the concept of agritourism.
what is it? Right,
And
that's what I want to
and
know.
with no bearing whatsoever on any application or anything else that's going on.
Right. I just want to know what it is.
I mean, put 20 people in a room and you'll get, maybe 20 views on what agritourism is. States define it differently. The state of New Hampshire finds it, fairly, broadly, but shortly, very short. Making a meal, attracting people to the farm environment, overnight stays, but they don't define what those are in any degree of specificity. My view is, and these are all on-site transactions with the public, which absent agriculture would be in another use. And the states have, virtually every state has realized that in order for farms to survive, they need to broaden what they can do. In the interest of my experience with farming is that if you can't attract people to your farm and your farm's relatively small, it makes it very difficult to keep that as a farm. And like, for example, I'll give it, Rockingham County has roughly 600 plus farms. The average size of the farms in Rockingham County are at 52 acres, There's no 52-acre farm in Plastow. There's only roughly a half a dozen places that could be considered farms in Plastow. So well below. But if you dive down into the Rockingham County farm metrics, 74% of the farms in Rockingham County are under the average size of 52 acres. So it shows you've got relatively small farms for the majority of Rockingham County, and then very, very large ones, which drive the average up. Farms that are that small aren't economically viable. It's impossible to make them economically viable. And that's why the state of New Hampshire has gone in a fairly aggressive and broad way into trying to give farms, a leg up. It's why they consider farm stands as long as you're selling your on-farm products that are greater than 35% of your sales. They bake it right into the regulation that they're considered agricultural and not commercial. There's a reason for that. And that's the whole envelope of agritourism, is to bring people onto the farm. And the notion of creating some definition of use is to eliminate the ambiguity that exists right now. So in speaking to Plastow's zoning specifically, there is no definition. There's no definition of agriculture. It grabs the state definition and pulls it in, and in the state definition is the definition of agritourism. This proposal, if you will, and it's not a citizen's petition yet because I haven't even written it, is essentially a way to kind of eliminate some of that ambiguity and define what makes sense or what could not make sense. And that's all it does, in some degree of specificity.
Do you
What
consider?
other towns? Oh, okay, I was just
Yeah,
asking,
I
what
think
are
we
other
might be asking a
towns?
similar question. Do you consider any specific farms in New Hampshire almost like a peer because they kind of are same size, same desires of how you want to
Yeah, what do
proceed
they
with the
have
land,
for-
that kind of thing?
There's some that do a fairly, a fair amount of, they have little cafes, they have little Applecrest, is one that's
And that's in
Close.
Hampton?
Hampton.
Yeah.
Does Hampton have an agritourism
Right.
No.
definition or zone? Okay, just curious.
Well, it has, it grabs in the state definition. And then they turn around and regulate that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I
States-
have it written down if you'd like to hear.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Um,
Because I think that's pertinent, right? Like,
sorry,
it's
I
what-
just have Northampton written down, not Hampton. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Because I think that's one of the things, again, I would say, anybody who was considering a citizen's petition, we might agree in principle with the intent, but if it's written in such a manner that causes problems with our zoning, then I think that you might find that the board will say, hey, I don't necessarily disagree with the intent of the citizen's petition, but the way it's written is flawed, and therefore I will vote to not recommend it with the idea that if it was written differently, then we would recommend it. You get it? Like, not necessarily. So that's one consideration. I'm just curious how,
I do. I guess I would ask is what would you envision the flaws
Right.
from what you've seen?
What about some of the smaller, farms that, if we were going to do something of agritourism, we'd want to be able to, capture them. I mean, we want to be able to capture, everything from the smaller size. I mean, if you're saying 75% of Rockingham County farms are below the average.
So
So,
the average of 52
Yeah.
acres. Yeah.
so, I mean, so
I-
what are some of the examples of the smaller farms, let's say in the area here?
Well, like I said, I mean, people may have other definitions. To me, there's roughly 5 farms in Plastow that call themselves farms, that identify themselves as farms, that actually publicly engage in agriculture.
All right, so
and-
roughly size-wise?
And they run
Pick a
from.
small one.
They run from, 15 acres to 40 acres of total land, not necessarily farmland, That's the size of them.
So would a agritourism amendment, would it contemplate, something like that with size-wise? We said 15 acres, greater than 15 acres, or?
It's basically the way I said it was the minimum was 10. I mean, the whole idea is to keep farms alive.
Right.
That's what the intent here was. It could be whatever acreage someone wants. But in order to keep a farm viable and working, it's got to be economic. And at some point in time, you need a certain amount of acreage to do that.
if I wanted to submit, anybody can submit a citizen's petition, correct? If I wanted to submit a citizen's petition to put a dump on my land, right? And that violated zoning, but say it got voted in, how does that work?
It's illegal.
So I guess that's the question, right? Is where does a citizen petition potentially conflict with current zoning?
I do believe that all citizens' petitions are still reviewed by council.
And if there's a legal challenge or problem, will that get addressed?
Yeah.
But then,
You don't have something.
are they required to change their citizen petition if it,
No, I don't think so.
No, you can't.
I was going to say, I didn't think so
Once
either.
It's written, it's
Once
written.
it's submitted, so it has to be submitted by next Wednesday.
Right.
So I'm kind of curious what happens, I'm just saying it out loud, what happens when a citizen petition is counter to the current laws or zoning or whatever?
Sort of like our last year's amendment, number 14.
No. No, I'm just saying, like, if someone submits a citizen petition and it's,
If
I don't know.
if the zoning board, I'm not going to malpractice here, but if the zoning board put forth an amendment that turned out to be unenforceable or illegal, it's no different than if the citizens put it forth. It has the same effect. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
So when you have something and there's no law for it, or it's just not there in the books, how do you get someone to make an amendment or anything new, or make a zone for, I mean, it is important, it's agriculture. How come no towns have that? I mean, what towns have a kind of, I can't believe there's nobody in New Hampshire and any of the towns
Well, you
don't
were
have.
saying Northampton.
Yes, and I did find Hampton, and they don't really mention it at all.
Yeah, what is North? I'm curious what North. I'm curious what other
Agricultural
towns.
presence within groundwater protection district, nothing having to do with agritourism. And then Northampton, it just defines agriculture,
Right.
and they have certain fees with
Can we
certain
Is
shut
there a
things
way
that
to
they
turn
do.
this thing off? I
Yeah.
can't hear you. Anybody know?
I don't know how.
Is there, maybe there's a remote?
Yeah, the white remote.
So to put this a little bit more in context, obviously I've had 3 different land use lawyers look at this. I've also had the 2 of the former chairmen of this board look at it too, to provide me with comment and insight, to try and do as thorough a job as I could in making sure that it made sense and was
There
consistent
you
with the
go.
town
Thanks.
zoning. Town council or zoning board council or planning board council is going to, weigh in. But this was really, tonight while I was giving you an at-bat on this, was essentially to see if anything in here jumped out and said, okay, this doesn't make any sense. This is too broad, too narrow, too much, too little. Obviously, there's a lot here.
Right.
And it was
I think
intentionally-
this is still a tough position, right? With the pending application, this is where it's tough to get into details.
Yeah, and not, well,
I'm not,
it's not about my property. I mean, this applies to
Yeah.
every
any
farm.
farm.
Yeah, I'm just
anything.
trying to be careful
Yeah,
again.
and I understand it. There are timing elements here where that application had to be filed. So it's not a perfect world.
Do you have any input, Victoria? I think that, as a non-voting,
Yeah.
unelected member, that you might be able to provide some insights that we can't, that we shouldn't or can, or I don't know.
Yes.
Catch my drift?
Speaking for myself, and I'm assuming others, there is interest in kind of cleaning this up, not just for you, but for the whole town.
Right.
The ordinance that you did send was very long and will take some analysis by a group of people. I haven't had the time because that's just not part of my contract since it wasn't filed. I did read through it. I do like how specific it gets in parts. Again, but it needs a full review. I just read through it the one time. I feel bad because we either need to vote to move zoning amendments to public hearing either today or at our next meeting. So that doesn't give us a lot of time to make any sort of decisions or do any full analysis of anything. So we're kind of stuck with a rock and a hard place.
Timing is our worst enemy here.
Yeah.
I don't disagree that this isn't a valuable topic. In fact, I hate that 90% of what goes on to the ballot is like junk. I'll take that back. Very important stuff,
Oh,
but
it is.
maybe tedious and not really meaningful to the general public, right? I want there to be very little of the cleanup type of stuff.
Right.
Oh, it's got to meet, we got to change this word or add this to meet the RSA. I hate that stuff because then now we've got 10 pages of warrant articles and nobody wants to read them. I want there to be 2 or 3 very impactful warrant articles that we present that changes for the better things in town. So, this is a great idea. I kind of wish we were talking about this 3 months ago.
Yeah. And it's all important. It's just not all of it's very interesting. Where this is more interesting.
There you
Very
go.
important.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
okay, so whether or not the board adopts it as their own, or if it goes by way of a citizen's petition, it's still being vetted before it goes on to the ballot, correct?
Yeah, well, I would read it, and I'm assuming that you have town council set up to
Right.
review all.
But they're going to have to,
ordinances.
but what I'm saying, it's going to be reviewed.
Yes,
Right, so the
for
analysis that
the
the
legal
analysis that
ease.
the analysis that we're talking about is going to happen whether or not this board adopts it as its own, or if it goes forward as a citizen's petition.
Mm.
And then if it goes as a citizen's petition, it's still coming to this board for a review. So I mean, it's coming to us either way.
It is, but as a citizen's petition, you can discuss it, but there's nothing you can change about it. It's already done. And
Yeah.
it's likely to go there because we just don't have enough time. I mean, I wasn't thinking of this 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I wish I was,
Yeah.
perhaps getting a little bit slow in my old age, but
No, my only point is I would hate to agree in principle with any citizen's petition that comes before us, but then find a flaw in the way it's written and say, I can't support that, even though I inherently support the intent, and almost say, hey, well, he voted against it. It's not because I don't agree with it. It's because the writing of the way of this I had an issue with. In that sense, I would say, let's revisit this and try to do it for next year. But I don't know. I guess I'll go ahead, Tim. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, there's general interest in the board in wanting to do something about agritourism.
Yeah.
I will have something ready for next meeting.
So let's ask, so I'll put it out this, because he's time sensitive to the citizen's petition, we almost have to either tell him, or in fairness, either say, we'll adopt this and take this on and present it as a board approved warrant article, or we have to say, sorry, we don't have time or the resources, please do it.
I would always if someone's considering a citizen petition and we're at the end of the road here,
Yep.
I would always recommend that they file the citizen's petition.
Yep.
Then if what the language that we come up with is not meeting the intent of the petitioner, then both go forward to the warrant, to the town meeting. If what we come up with is in general what the petitioner wanted, I believe that they can withdraw the petition.
Does anybody know that 100%?
I'm not 100% sure of that.
I think you're right.
Find out.
Yep.
I think you're right.
But I would have to go back to all the people who signed the petition.
Maybe that I don't know. That I don't know.
I believe I
Not
do.
that at all.
I will
That I
double
don't
check
know. We
with
can find
that.
out.
What I don't want is to have competing agritourism petitions. That serves
Oh,
no
yeah, no.
purpose.
Yeah, it could be confusing.
Well,
right?
why
I agree.
couldn't we?
Well,
What I don't wanna have happen is-
especially when voters get to the end of the ballot
Exactly.
and they start reading zoning amendments,
Yep.
forget it. They're just going, oh, so the selectmen said, the planning board, yeah.
I get it.
When do you have to have the citizen's petition in by?
A week from today.
Yeah.
I don't have one signature yet, so I haven't even,
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling you won't have a problem
I
with that.
don't think so. I still have to go get them.
Right.
But also, I want everyone to be very aware that the next meeting, we're going to be talking about his property and reviewing a newly written agritourism ordinance. So I'm not sure whose feathers that would ruffle, but it is definitely something to be aware of that
Okay.
is very sticky.
If
What
this
if
board,
Tim
if
could
this
do
board
it?
takes, if this.
Yeah,
board
either
takes-
way.
What is the competition?
Yeah, I don't see why it's, if we
If
take.
Tim could do what he wants to do, and we can look at that with some definition. And then there is the citizens petition that can be discussed.
Yeah, it is just showing a little bit of bias.
It's a little bit of what?
Arguably. It's just showing a little bit of bias, arguably. I'm not gonna stop you. I just want you to be aware that there could be argument on some other front.
So just a question to clarify. If this board were to take this amendment under consideration, make it our own, and then modify it and then submit it to be reviewed, I don't think that constitutes, some sort of bias. That, I mean, once it's ours, it's ours.
I
It's
get,
not.
Yeah.
no, but I
it's
get
not
what
someone
Victoria's
else.
saying. Any other time that we'd hear an application, listen,
Yeah.
just hear me out. If we heard an application on its own, boom, that's easy. If we hear a discussion about whether or not we can propose an amendment, boom, it's easy. The fact that the two could be happening congruently could conflict. And again, I think we just want to try to be clean. Cleaning, is someone cleaning here?
Just think about it in any other context. So say we're not talking about agritourism and we're talking about C3 and someone wants to add a use that's right outside of the bounds of C3. And then we build rapport with this applicant, and then we come in and try to change the parameters of the uses within C3. And then some angry abutters come to us and say, you're showing favoritism. I don't know. I think that someone's putting money in your pockets. So just think about it.
So you saying that it should go a citizen's petition then? And if it goes citizen's petition, then are we going to draft the competing agritourism?
I don't
No.
like that.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
it's.
I don't think you do that.
I don't like that. No.
It is a challenging, everything is challenging because of the timing,
Yeah.
not just because of where we are in terms of the warrant article season, but also because I get your point, right?
I
Someone
just
wants-
want you all to be aware.
Someone wants
that
to put a
might hear
donut
these
shop
things.
where a donut shop isn't allowed, and then we change our zoning to allow for donut shops right around the same time that, I don't know, I'm just saying. And then we say, yes, you can do a donut shop, and then someone has an issue with that. This is the BS that we obviously deal with, right?
Yeah.
Being on as part of a planning board. But
Well, here's,
how do we get around that then? How do we do both, right? Like, how do we, because
Well, the C3 is a perfect example.
let's just say this. Let's do a straw poll. Who has an interest in looking at an agritourism definition, zoning definition?
I'm not saying anything tonight.
I like the idea of, I'd like to see what Tim has, what he would write up.
I don't
would
think
like to see
I
that.
don't think Tim should be competing with a citizen's petition.
Maybe he's not. He's looking at it maybe at a different definition. I would like to see if there is a difference, or does he really explain it?
This goes back to Richard's point is, do we sanction it or does a citizen
Right.
sanction? Any citizens, any amendment for that matter.
I would say that there are a couple, just from a decision perspective, that if we're going to take it, if we like it, I say we take it and we make it our own. But if there's a conflict or the perception of a conflict, then I would say then that
Anyway.
it should go as a citizen's petition and then come before us. But I would probably be reticent to have a competing agritourism
Sure.
amendment or something like that would be competing with a citizen's petition.
I go back to my only concern about a citizen's petition is that anyone that might come in front of us, I might wholeheartedly agree with the intent, but if it's not written in a manner that I agree with, then I might be inclined to vote that I don't recommend it, and I would hate to think that, that would be impactful to what the true intent is or the true goal is.
Or we could have
But
an analysis.
if we adopt it, I don't think we're going to write an amendment and then vote against it, right? Every amendment that we draft and work on and put forth is realistically going to be a 500 recommendation for.
Not always.
I know.
No, I
Usually
started
it
with
is,
a
right?
petition with C3, and it didn't pass. It missed by a few votes. Then I come back and I did it on the planning board as an amendment, and it passed.
Can I
Yeah,
say
maybe
one?
the way the citizens petition was written was kind of problematic.
No, it was the exact same thing. I have a copy of it.
The planning board has a certain cachet when it puts its stamp on it.
It does. You're not wrong. I mean, listen, that's who people go and look and say recommended by so and so. Like half the time, they don't even look and read the whole thing. Go ahead. You
I
wanna say
just
something?
think, I think it's a shame that we can't even work with you to make an ordinance together that we want because of the timing of the season.
Yeah, I think this has to be a citizen's petition. I think it just takes it out of the realm and avoids the confusion. It'll be what it'll be.
I agree with you. It should be the citizen's petition, because I think if we drafted
And then see
one to
what
compete it,
That's what I did.
it may not strike the notes that you want. And
What did
you
I
want
have
it
to
to probably read a certain way, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I want it to be legal. I want it to be
Sure.
passable. I want it to be enforceable. I want it to be all those things, obviously, because what's the point? But I think given the timing, given the fact that I do have an application because of the timing requirements to submit that, I'm going to go the citizen petition. I think it's the only realistic way.
It is where you got a week to go.
Yep. So,
Yeah, and then if poor Tim writes a whole ordinance and we have to talk about it at the next meeting,
Yeah,
that's a lot to
that's
talk
tough.
about.
It's tough. Again, if this came up, and not putting any blame, if it came up 4 months ago, I think we could have.
I think it should be a citizen's petition first. I think that's how we should go. That's how I went.
Yep, that's fine. That's the recommendation, and we, unfortunately, we're also it would almost be nice to be able to sit down and
And do it
talk about the
together.
merits and what's in there and
Yeah.
give recommendations, but
To have
we're
something. going.
prohibited from doing that, I think.
I think it'd be a good thing for Plastow, and it'd be nice
Me
it'd be
too.
nice if we were sort of avant-garde
Hold
about
on a
this sort
second.
of
Wait a
thing.
minute. Again,
Opinion,
opinion.
Oh.
not too much
I
now.
think that it'd be nice for an applicant to file a citizen petition on whatever they want. That's really what it comes down to.
I think that it would be nice to see democracy in action.
well, we'll give it a shot.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I am going to sit in the back because there is a couple of things I want to hear.
Yeah.
If that's permissible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a public meeting. You watch it on TV or attend. I didn't mean to shut you off, Richard. I just thought I was wanting to keep everything.
Yes, he did.
Well, I meant to shut you off. I'm just telling. I didn't want to. I hope you don't feel
It
I was
hurt
being
me
rude
inside.
about it. What's that? So, all right, zoning amendments. Speaking of that, was in it? I apologize again for I
Yeah,
missed a
the
few
last
meetings.
meeting.
Did we
Right.
make some progress on them? And
Well, I was going to ask Victoria on some of the things I had said, talking about definitions, on C3. I had wanted to know if that was possible to make that change from 12 to 10,000. Remember, I gave you the slip of paper?
Yes, I didn't look at that. I
Okay.
firmly stand by that changing retail definitions is a whole conversation that
No,
cannot
that
be
wasn't retail.
done
That was
just
just the
overnight
size
by
of a
me.
building. Oh, okay.
I don't have enough hours in the circuit riding contract
No,
to
no,
do
no.
full.
I know that. I just wanted to know what happened. What do I do? I mean, is it accepted to do that, or I can't?
where is
Yeah,
where is
you
this on our
can-
paperwork? Is it?
So you were talking about C3?
Yep. I wanted to put non-permitted uses of warehouse and contract yard first, is what I wanted to do. I wanted it on the paper.
What's our definition of warehouse again? Because warehouse,
Oh, and there's a couple of them.
it's a gray area, right? Because is a warehouse a distribution warehouse for
What?
retail support, or is
No,
it a
this is-
storage?
No.
Well, we have to
Is
be
it a
careful there.
material storage facility?
Where?
Well, you got to also look at the size, because you could build anything huge.
But again,
You don't give size.
I think one is a retail redistribution center or a distribution center,
All right.
or it could be just a business's storage area, right?
We have warehouse distribution center, a facility that is exclusively engaged in as a primary use, the receipt,
Just distribution.
storage, and distribution of
Oh.
goods, products, cargo, and materials, including transshipment by boat, rail, air, or motor vehicle. And then we have warehouse light industry,
Right.
a building that is used primarily for light industry. The storage of goods and materials may be an accessory use only to the primary uses as defined in light industry.
And that's kind of like what they're doing, JR is kind of doing, because there's no, it's just storage and it's
Yeah.
just that type of thing. So I guess it's the other one I want to make sure.
Do we exclude warehouse distribution center in C3?
We talked about it, so I didn't, it's not in there though.
It's not in there currently.
That's why I wanted to make sure it was understood.
Is it, do we,
No, in C3, contractor's yard is a prohibited use. And then in permitted, we have retail, wholesale business,
I didn't see anything about not a warehouse.
trade business, small industry, which is different than light industry.
I think you have to do that by size. So,
So that's why I'm asking, can we change it to 10,000? 12,000 was what I wanted was on that paper.
does that
The
achieve-
maximum building size.
right,
So right now, maximum building size where a single business is to occupy a single building, that is 20,000 square feet. Maximum building size where
I thought it was 12.
I thought it
where
was
multiple
12.
businesses are to occupy a single building, 60,000 square feet.
In C3?
C3.
Well, we're definitely changing. That was not what I had in my old thing here.
I thought it was 12,000.
Yeah, I did too.
Where am I getting 12,000 from?
I don't have it. either.
Maybe you're talking about the yard dimensions?
I don't think I have the newest zoning in my book. So what's that?
What? Are you using old zoning?
Yeah. I think I have last year's or the year before.
Oh,
I have it someplace. I need
Okay,
to swap it out.
It says here, maximum lot coverage, 75% now. Minimum building setback, building size, where a single business is to occupy a single building, 20,000 square feet. Where the heck did that come from? Where, is this an old one? Page 86, is that the old one?
Page 86 of,
Of that book, that has all the,
that's,
Zoning.
did you bring that with you?
yep,
Okay.
yep, took it out.
What year does it say?
It doesn't say it here on this. I just took it out. Remember? I
You
got
found
all
the
new
C3,
ones.
you're looking at our current zoning and C3 lists as maximum size 20,000 square feet.
Yep.
So with that in mind,
I want to bring it down. Definitely. Anyway, I was going to do that anyway, so it looks like I could bring it down.
is there any unintended consequences of doing so? I always think about that, like, hey, this really good business that everybody really wanted to go in, decided not to go in because
Because of the restriction.
of the restriction. I'd almost rather say, well, if you don't want a certain type of use, let's specify that versus saying, let's restrict a good use and tell them they can't, they might walk away from, even though they could ask for a variance, they might walk away because,
Well, you have the choice of variance anyway, so if somebody wants to approve you, you're going to get approved anyway. I just don't like the idea, 20,000, I definitely don't like. That could be almost anything again, could go in there. I mean, even a small Target, a small whatever. And that's the whole idea. We did not want that at all on C3. So the 20,000 is too much as far as I'm concerned, and that was not what my purpose was at all. It doesn't go with what I said about C3.
there was a rationale behind some of the sizes back when we made the
Way back.
adjustment
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. I think,
I
did we try to
definitely want that
envision
change.
how big a certain business might be?
I think that's what we did.
What's a, I guess we can't specifically say a good business, but think about a good business now. that everybody really likes.
All right, say a drugstore, Rite Aid, say something like that.
A
lot of people
typical
have said that.
Walgreens store is about 14,500 square feet.
How big's Convenient MD?
Can you want another one?
I think they're all the same size.
That's not very big.
No, they're all the same size.
That's like 5,000, I think.
Is it?
Urgent care.
Yeah.
So a typical Walgreens is 14,000.
Clinic, average urgent care size is about 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, they're not big.
So,
What's the Rite Aid
Uh,
that's
it
currently?
Walgreens bought them, so we can just use the Walgreens
I wonder
number.
what the Rite Aid in Plastow is. 'Cause
So Walgreens would be the same thing then, if they now have that. And what is for Walgreens now again?
That was 14,500.
That's why I thought we were going from 12 to 10. I want the 10.
I don't even know where we got 12 then. I don't know why that sticks in my mind.
How big is Bed Bath and Beyond in?
That's pretty big.
That's a pretty big one. And that's what I'm saying. Those are the ones we were trying to keep down in this area, and a lot of them are going out. So we hope we're going to get something in there. We don't want even more up on C3 and have them go up.
Chick-fil-A's are normally 15,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Hate to one not to go in because
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, they're only open 6 days a week, too.
Number one, they are not under retail business.
they're going to go to
They go down here under restaurants.
Maybe they could go to Rite Aid.
they're going to go to
Bank of
Exeter instead
America.
because we limited the size.
No, but what I'm saying, you're limiting the size to the retail business. That's where it's under.
All right, so what's the?
A typical Applebee's is under 5,000 square feet.
What is?
A typical like Applebee's 99, Chili's.
All right, does the
Around-
board,
It's only
in the interest of keeping
5,000?
things
That's
moving,
what-
does the
that's what
board
the
have
internet
interest
says.
in?
Doggy daycare, 75 to 100 square feet per dog.
Does the board have interest in lowering the?
20,000, we're really in
That was
trouble.
you. What do you mean?
No, I said 20,000 is way too
Depends on
much.
the lot size, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. It depends on the
The
lot
lot
size
size.
to kind of pigeon someone in.
Yeah, you got a big lot, and then you say you can only.
And they can get a variance. They want that.
But I think if you have somebody could come in and look and they say, I gotta go for a variance, I'm gonna go look next door. I'll go up to Kingston.
Maybe that could be it. Yeah, that could be it.
What's
They're
that?
constrained by.
A conceptual that came in for C3. I don't want to name names.
Well,
I'll
I-
have
I
Victoria
want to lower
shooting
it from
daggers
20.
at me.
That
Yeah.
is too high. That is way too high. So what do you call a reasonable amount then?
I get that's the question.
And locally owned hardware stores usually range from 2,000 to 20,000 square feet.
20, really?
Retail. This retail establishment is between 8 and 12. Typical box stores, big box stores are typically 100,000 square feet.
Right, right. And that's, we don't, I'm not worried about that, but I am worried about the in between that try to repeat, but it's, again, repetition.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is this, right? Can we restrict? I just wouldn't want. I'd hate to get into an unintended. Oh, we heard this business was going to come, but then they get
No, you
scared
can't
away
restrict
because of the size
businesses.
restrictions.
I think it depends on the lot size. Do they meet everything else? And if they do, I don't know. I don't have a problem with 20 if the lot supports it.
Yeah,
That's the whole thing. If the lot supports it, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
And how many lots in C3 actually could support it
That's a pretty good
It's
size
something.
building, right? It's
to consider?
what do we think? What do we think the Rite Aid is for the old Rite Aid for reference?
14,500.
Yeah,
8,500.
Yeah.
14.
14,000,
So
see?
yeah, so
So you could bump it down to 15 to 20.
add another 25% on that.
Or bring it down to 14.
Or 15.
14 or
I think we
15.
could just bring it down to the 14, exactly what most of them are.
Well, if Rite Aid's 14.5, I don't think you can really go below that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to go below. I'd like to do the 14 then, rather than the 20.
50.
I'd go with 15.
Yeah, don't. I like increments of 5.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I'd go with
15 then.
15. Next year, we can make it.
Go to 10 next year.
Yeah, see, you want 5s, and then go back down to 10.
No, I get what you're saying.
You know, it's going to come up, and I'm telling you, something will try to come in, and it's going to be a copycat right of a big store down here.
Here's the problem, though, is, listen, I think that we make it 10, there's going to be an establishment that you personally or people personally in town didn't want to see that's going to be 8,000 square feet, right? You'd be like, crap, I didn't want them to go in. So how do we?
No, what's the
My
big
question is, can we restrict the use versus the size?
I mean, what's the thing you always hear people talk about? Trader Joe's, right?
Yes. What's the Trader
You know
Joe's?
what I mean? Think of that. They're all coming all different sizes. A Trader Joe's could
They
come in.
do, and that's what I'm
And
saying.
that could easily be 20.
It could be, but you could get, like you said, a different size. They would still be just as popular and more fit for C3. If you want to come down and move into bed and bath, fine.
But
Great.
that 5 may not be enough. So 15 versus 20 might not be enough for a store like that to come in.
Trader Joe's is 8,000 to 15,000.
8,000.
There you go.
There you go. So 15 is plenty.
15 is good.
15 is good.
So you're saying that, well, we heard Trader Joe's wanted to go in, but then Karen's amendment squashed it, and now they're in
No, I'm
Exeter.
going at 15. They can go in at 8.
Well,
And
it'll
Chick-fil-A
forever
is
be
too-
known
and
that
Chick-fil-A is
Karen
too big,
kept
so
the
that
Trader
can't
Joe's and the
Chick-fil-A, I
Chick-fil-A
don't
from
think
coming.
no, I think Chick-fil-A, you've got different things here. You've got also restaurants, drive-in restaurants. Those are different. This is under retail business is what those sizes
You're
are
no
for.
fun. You're no fun. Just having fun with you. No, I get it. No, on a serious note, I get what you're saying. Is there a different way to skin the cat? Would it be like lot size, right? Percentage of lot size? Could we do it that way?
So if we change the maximum building size,
Right, 20 to 15.
then currently our maximum lot coverage is 75%, so we would need to math the minimum lot size. That area would also go down.
Well, to your point, right? Even if we say the maximum lot size is 15,000, how many lots are big enough to allow 15,000 square feet? Probably not a whole lot in
They're
C3.
probably on a lot, so you probably don't really have to change anything.
Well, technically, the
That's what
minimum
I'm
lot
scared
size is 80,000 square feet.
In our C3.
That's the minimum lot size. The building size is the 20.
Say that again.
So if we bring it down to 15, what do we have to get?
20 to 80.
In C3, the minimum lot size area is 80,000 square feet.
Wait, we have lots in C3 that are tiny, right?
Are they legally
Most of them are
non-conforming?
tiny. They are. Most of them are tiny.
I don't know if I know.
They might be legally non-conforming.
I don't know, Tim, what are your thoughts? Do you think I don't think we have a whole lot of 80,000 square foot lots in C3, let alone larger than that.
No, a number of years back, we changed all of commercial 1, which would now include C3,
Yeah.
to 80,000. It was
So that's what happened.
40, I think, prior to that, which was
God.
crazy. So we
The
upped it
minimum
to-
lot size used to be 40 in C3?
I think so. Or-
C3 and C1 are not the same, and that's what I'm trying to say.
I know that, Karen,
Okay.
but I'm saying, when we changed that, it was all C1. There was no C3.
Right, okay.
So that's where the 80,000 comes from for
80,000
C3.
I
is a
get
hair
you.
under
Left
2
over
acres.
from being C1.
I get you. I'm
For-
sorry. I get you.
80,000 is 1.84 acres. So
And that's ridiculous if you're trying to get smaller businesses in there. Minimum lot size of almost 2 acres. You want someone who sells yarn to go in on 2 acres?
Yes, I want small businesses, period.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
not
I'd
on
said
2
for
acres.
C3.
That's
That's
not.
what I said in the very
That's
beginning.
not economically feasible for a small business to have 2 acres of land.
So what would
To
be
themselves.
what would be a number then for the minimum lot size?
you're kind of saying to help small businesses going in, we might want to look at the minimum lot size because right now it's too
That's
big.
more important than the other number?
Yes,
Well, it's
But-
important because it could actually hurt a small business from going in because our minimum lot size is almost 2 acres.
because they have to purchase the 2 acres.
So yeah, so what you're saying is if someone wanted to put a little craft store in,
Yeah, so why
they'd be
can't
like,
I
you need
change?
a 2 acre lot, when in reality, they probably need a quarter of an acre.
So why can't I change both then? That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but to get smaller, we would need to figure out,
You don't
the
wanna get too small.
environmental constraints of that area. Is water up to C3 yet? I don't have the,
Up
Not
to,
memorized.
just past,
C1 is 80,000 square feet too.
We probably just didn't change it when we changed it to C3,
right,
right?
exactly. We didn't change it.
Well, water goes all the way up to that warehouse, right? That's coming in.
That's what I thought. Well, has it got up there yet to the warehouse they're
Think it-
building
Do you
now?
think,
Water, no.
do you think changing the minimum lot size
Is the
a
water
good
up to
thing
C3?
For C3? With the intent that we want small business?
I pull it up.
I mean, if you go drive through 125,
Yeah.
what are the businesses that you don't like? They're all the ones on tiny lots because there's these little small buildings that put used cars out there, regardless of whether they're selling cigarettes or Band-Aids. And
You got that right.
that's all you can do. You're constrained to 1 acre. You can't do a decent sized business. So that was the moment. Well, other than the fact that it was a lot of buildings already lots already that were 80,000, but
Right.
we didn't want to perpetuate that, little postage size stamp.
Okay, so eliminate the postage size stamp. So how far up can I go without being the 80,000, which is going to encourage a huge store to go in there? I mean, how can I get in the middle?
I don't think if you go below 80.
So you're telling me a Kmart or something could go up there?
The 2 acres is,
Well, I mean, Kmart's not gonna go up there, but
they need more than 2 acres.
Yeah, they need a lot more, plus you gotta think about parking and everything.
More than
else.
80,000?
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
know
again,
a
that's
store
still
that-
just
Yeah.
the minimum lot size,
Yeah.
so, yeah. But I get what Tim's saying, right? If you restrict it, now you kind of
No, I don't want to go as
pushes into
low.
a
I
corner about
understand
what
not
can
going
go there, and it
low.
may not be the desired businesses.
And I'll tell you right now, what's the biggest thing people are talking about these days? Taxes, right? If you make it tough for some businesses to come in, that hurts.
And there is existing water for some of C3.
Yes, it goes halfway up there, I think, pretty much, but not till the warehouse.
It
yet.
goes up to the crow's nest. And then the
Does it go up
warehouse,
to Crow's
and then
Nest
the
already?
warehouse is gonna bring it up further.
Well, yeah, that's what, they haven't got it yet, though, but it
Yeah,
is
they're right,
supposed to
they
go
haven't
up
done
there.
that yet, but that's what they said, they were gonna bring it
Yeah.
up to their building.
Right.
I think going back to the economic development plan, right? Everybody says, I want this, this, and this, and it's,
Well, I wanted to really
the problem
change.
is that those types of business, the question is, again, the types of businesses that want a retail store these days is fewer and far between. So no matter what we do, we're only going to attract a certain crowd. We want entertainment, food, and whatnot. Do we negatively impact those businesses trying to go in, should they ever choose to, by limiting the lot size? Can't help
Okay,
it.
not the lot size now, let's go back to what I originally said.
Not the lot size, I'm sorry, the building size.
Right, the building size.
I think you could. That's just my opinion.
Forget it, but I'm waiting for that first thing that comes in. Believe me, I'll be the first one to yell and scream.
I'm not necessarily opposed to
Just because I
50,000, I'm
passed
just-
that warehouse, and I did not want to pass that either.
I'm not,
Not forgetting any of this.
I'm not necessarily opposed to 15,000 square feet. But I just won't want it to hurt. A business we don't like still might go in, and a business we do like might say, oh crap, it's too small. I'll look elsewhere. We just don't.
And then they can go to the ZBA.
But sometimes if you make it difficult, they'll say, you know something, I can just go to the town next door and I'm in.
No, I think they'll go to the
We
ZBA
won't
because
know.
that's where everybody goes.
We won't necessarily
Right, they
know.
want a variance.
Like people, businesses are just looking, hey, what do we got? They look it up and say, yeah, what about next door?
Yeah.
Yep.
We
Okay.
don't know. We're never gonna know.
Go to the path of least less resistance.
If their heart is set on going there, they'll go to the ZBA if they want.
Okay, can we just go back to the original one then? I still would like to bring it down to 15. I won't say 10, but I still would like to bring that part, building size, to 15. I think you can get plenty for 15.
We do
and up.
unofficial votes for this? Is that?
No,
You got to write it up.
we'd write it up.
Well, I gave you the paper.
And then at the next meeting, yeah, but there was a whole conversation that we needed to have, which we had it.
Right,
It was
that's-
great.
Okay,
was
so
great.
I have to redo that then? You want me to redo that paper?
No, you're just changing
I'm just changing the building size.
C6, maximum building size where a single business is to occupy a single building. So from 20, it's going to be 15,000 square feet.
Yes,
Does the-
that's what I
does the
want to
board
do, but that's
support
up
that
to you
change?
guys.
15.
This is what I mean by vote, like unofficial vote. Does the board support that change?
Yeah, I'd go along with that.
I'm still at 20, but I'll think about it.
Okay, and then for 7, maximum building size where multi-businesses, I hate it how it says multi, by the way.
What should it say instead?
Maximum building size where multiple businesses are to occur, a single building, 60,000 square feet. Now, I think that that is extremely prohibitive to small businesses that want to share.
What do you mean, like a plaza?
Yeah.
A little
what-
plaza?
Like a little plaza.
Yeah, a little plaza, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. I'm hoping we'd go in there more.
But if you have like a thrift
Services.
store,
You're talking about like where Stillwell's is, right? That's a multiple business plaza, correct?
Yeah, and there's all kinds of empty places in there, isn't there?
Lots of empty ones in there too.
True. So, but the question is, what if someone wanted to do a nice little plaza, which,
Had all services in it, from barber shop to hairdressing to whatever. They wanted to all go together.
we're not allowing a barber shop in town. Wait, I'm sorry.
I give
sorry.
I think that the maximum building size for multiple businesses should go way down
The maximum building size.
from where there is a building with multiple businesses.
So you're saying that
So
right
if
now
you
they have
have
to be
a-
at least 60,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So
For a
you could have
building.
You could have two companies.
Yeah. So what if you have like an architect office upstairs and like a candy shop downstairs and some sort of small
Oh, we're
thrift
hoping to
store?
have
Yeah, let's-
Apartments upstairs.
You
Well,
don't
what's,
need.
I know, seriously.
You don't
What's
need 60.
what's that little place that used to have Rockingham Gift downstairs and upstairs was a hair?
Yeah, right next to where Larry's is, you're talking, right? The corner.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
How big is that thing?
That had
1,000 square feet?
multiple, right? That had
Yeah.
3 or 4.
That thing
in
was
there or
pretty
something.
small. 10, 20, 10, 15,000 square feet at most. So I get what you're saying. You're saying,
For the types of businesses that you want to see in C3, 60,000 square feet is a really big building.
Well,
They-
that's why I wanted to see it go down to 15. Why is there a difference in small businesses and the big building? I don't get it.
that's
Why-
a
Because-
multi-business plaza is what she's saying. She's saying right
Okay.
now, someone would
All
have to build a big plaza.
Yeah, so that
It's
could have
probably-
4 businesses in it. so-
Okay, all right. Well, if you want to change that one too, I
So-
just want the other one
So,
changed.
so if we make that 30 and 115, right?
So this is where I was talking about it getting really complicated. For under areas and dimensions, we have to consider minimum lot size, lot coverage, which is a percentage. So now we need to do math. And then we have maximum building size with a single business and maximum building size with multiple businesses.
Okay, we can change that too if that's what everybody wants to do.
So if we change, so we're changing
Single building.
the single building, single occupant from 20 to 15,000 square feet.
Yep.
So now that has a maximum lot coverage. I am terrible at math.
Yeah,
Minimum lot size, we're also changing that to correspond with 75% still. We'd like to keep 75%.
Yep.
But now we have to consider maximum building size where multiple businesses are to
I
occur.
wasn't even thinking of that one, but okay.
And then
Yeah.
we need to,
What's the current maximum
Yeah.
building
the
size?
current
60.
It's 60,000
Oh.
square feet with
That's
multiple
the
businesses.
maximum.
Big.
And that's with multiple businesses.
What's the
You could
minimum?
have 4, 5, 6.
There's no minimum.
Oh, so we're saying a multi-unit plaza can only be 60,000 square feet. You're saying that's a bad thing?
Maximum building size? Well, if we're looking, the point of C3 is to get smaller businesses in.
Right, so if you have a mall of
So
smaller
a maximum
businesses,
building size,
Like where Early Bird is, how.
that would be
Yeah.
6 10,000 square foot
You
building,
know?
condos,
Right.
business condos next to each other in a
Yeah, I
plaza.
guess if
All those
you
businesses are
want
still
it that
successful.
big.
Or 12 5,000. So you think that our maximum size should be smaller?
Well, we should at least,
How many little ones can you fit in now?
we should at least do the math.
Huh?
Brick and mortar stores are going away. So you got to try to attract other types of business.
So maximum, we're just kind of somewhat restricting it because nobody's going to do a 60,000 square foot multi-unit plaza these days, right? Unless it's a mixed use retail.
Unless it was a bunch of little doctor's offices or something like that,
Yeah.
right? It's just that, because brick and mortar just isn't the.
No.
That's going, that's
It's got to be
going away.
something you can't buy on Amazon.
Right.
Well, so after I do the math of changing 20,000 square feet to 15,
Yep.
and I figure out the minimum lot size that can allow with
That
a
can go.
maximum lot coverage of 75%, the other number will change.
Does it need to change? I don't know. All right.
Well,
So
then, the 75% would
in
be
the interest of
off.
moving the night along,
Yes, please.
because
Okay,
it's,
I
'cause-
brought this up now for 2 meetings, so I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that this is not getting ignored, or is it going to be ignored? So that's,
No.
I'm sorry.
if it
Well,
sounds
to make
sounds like
sure
enough, a
it's
majority of
not,
the board
write
is
it down
okay with
also.
moving the maximum size from 20 to 15.
And then the corresponding math.
Yeah, if
On the
there's math problems that
multi-business.
need to happen
She wants
based on
me to take it
percentages
back
of
and
lot
write it
size,
down. All right,
Okay.
fine.
then is
I
that
Gotta send it to
something
D.
that Dee would be able
No,
to
I
assist?
can do this
What do you
quick.
do for me?
Okay.
I gave it to her.
Just
to
some
do
math.
me.
And then
I just didn't want to rip apart all of C3
No, I think we just wanted to kind
without
of
having a
I just
wider
wanted that one
conversation.
section.
yeah, 20 down to 15, and then maximum lot size, the maximum building size for multiple businesses. Do we want to change that? 60,000 is smaller, or
I
we
got
still
a
okay?
headache.
Are you talking about the minimum lot size?
I don't know.
Not the minimum lot size, I'm sorry, the maximum building
Maximum
size.
lot size for multiple.
Maximum
businesses.
building size for multiple businesses. You said you had a problem with 60,000 square feet is too big.
Oh, we're just going to scale that down so that the math is correct.
Okay.
Make the math.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to make the math.
All right, 20
And then
to
you'll
15.
understand what I was talking about.
20 to 15. And call me if you have any problems, we'll figure it out.
You both take off your shoes together and count and stuff. Yeah.
You counting toes? Oh, okay.
So I'm a better salesman than a mathematician, so.
That's why I bring engineers with me
I'm
everywhere.
sorry, I just wanted that one number changed.
No, and you're getting your way.
Just
But
being
there,
so
it was just more
difficult.
complicated.
All right, too bad. We
Thank
almost
you
we
very
almost had a
much,
Chick-fil-A and a
Victoria.
Trader Joe's, and Karen,
No,
No,
Mess
no,
that
Trader
up.
Joe's can still go in,
it can still go in there.
especially now that there's water access. One of you can go on their website and request
Just no
For them to
Chick-fil-A.
I've already request Chick-fil-A.
You
So the
did.
guy never got back to me. Yes, I actually went up to the manager, so.
what's the next, moving along, what's the, all right, 20 to 15,
did.
C3 size, okay, awesome. What's the next zoning change?
So we're deleting that first one. We're deleting aviation
Where is, okay,
as a
what
permitted
page is that on?
use. That's on the very first page.
Okay, this is the
Which-
new one
which
we got
document are you looking
now,
at?
right?
Oh, this thing, draft
One we
Draft
just got.
12064? We're deleting aviation. Okay, good. Anybody have any questions or issues with that?
No.
That's pretty straightforward.
All right. I don't know why, but I don't care because it's late.
Okay, one is gone.
Well, no, we have to put it on the ballot.
And each of
It has to
these,
be voted
we
on.
need a vote to have a public meeting.
Tonight,
The public meeting is not tonight, but we need to vote. Well, or we could do it at the next meeting.
we have to vote to set the public meeting, correct?
Yes.
So we could do it tonight, we could do it next meeting and just say the public meeting is going to be on January, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Okay.
But it needs to happen by next meeting.
Needs to
At
happen by
least.
next meeting.
Yes.
Crossing out.
I mean, the first one, all you're doing is deleting aviation, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Seems like a pretty easy
We're not
vote,
crossing it
Yep.
out. We have to,
right?
it has to go on the
That's my
ballot.
opinion. That one you could take care of right now.
Okay, so now we're talking about Z 24-02?
We weren't putting aviation on the ballot.
We weren't putting a definition of aviation on the ballot.
okay?
Z2402.
So originally we were gonna write a definition for aviation because aviation was an allowed use in some industrial district. But then we were like, what the heck? We don't want airports. So now we're just getting rid of it.
So it's just deleting the word aviation.
So there are no airports allowed in Plastow.
What about helicopter pads?
Helicopter pads for emergencies are different.
What if,
That's
what if a
true, too,
business,
by
what if
deleting
a distribution center wants
As long as that's enough.
their executives to fly
No.
in?
There's one
I
zone.
don't think we have an issue with that. I don't care for helicopter lands. All right, so Z24-02. What's the deal with that?
It seems like it has something to do with home occupations with
Yep.
how many trucks and trailers
By
and,
adding the words total, which includes cars, trucks, and/or trailers.
To ensure that no one pulls a fast one on us and has multiple large tractor trailers.
Yeah, or anything.
In their
for-
home.
For that matter, right? All right, so this is basically saying home occupation conditions.
I thought we already had that understood. You know, when they ask you on the ZBA, they always ask, they said, well, now, is this, how many trucks are you going to have outside, you know? I thought there was already rules on that.
Not
Ask
more than
the homeowner.
two business vehicles, so I
Right,
guess
they
that's the
always ask
problem,
that.
right? So
Well,
what constitutes a
I
business
think we're,
vehicle?
I think we're adding in trailers because you know how like they have those big trailers now and, you know,
So you're saying someone owns a home in a neighborhood,
You have a
they
big trailer
also
truck?
own a electrical company, right?
mhm.
And
Yeah,
then
so
they
they can't
park,
store there
they're
for 4
parking
vehicles or
three
whatever.
vans out in front of, and the neighbors are
Right.
like, this sucks.
I thought that already was a
Trailers,
rule.
trucks, whatever.
Where before, I believe that the wording could be taken as two of a company car,
They added
as well
and/or
as
trailers.
two of a trailer.
Yeah, they added the and/or trailers.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Two.
That's
I'm
two
good with
already.
that.
Yeah, that one
Okay
seems,
with
I'm
that?
good with that.
yeah, that one seems
Yep,
okay.
good. Awesome. Just one note, it says proposed article Z-23-02. It shouldn't be Z-2402, right?
Yes.
D2402.
Yeah, but I'm just saying
24.
on
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
this piece of paper, it says proposed article Z-23-02 voters note. It should say Z-2402. It's just a edit. All right, proposed Plastow zoning amendment Z-24-03. Are you in favor of amendment number 3 as proposed by the Plastow Planning Board, the Plastow zoning ordinance article solar collection systems as detailed below?
So this all came out of like the energy committee.
Yep, all came out, and here we already, we got 4, 5, 6, yeah, here we go again.
All right, so what's the purpose of this one? By modifying the phrase "this ordinance" to "the solar ordinance," and by adding a second sentence to the second paragraph, in doing so, the solar ordinance will help protect the general health, safety, and welfare for all, as well as make sure the ordinance is in compliance with the applicable state and federal laws. But Z-22, 22-50.2,
Definitions, that's what they want.
photovoltaic system also referred an active solar system. Jesus, what is all this?
Nobody's even gonna.
All right, who was on the, Tim, are you on the energy committee?
Yep.
So what was the intent of all this?
Voltaic system is. people-
So let's talk about this in a general
I
sense.
think
Is this
I
problematic?
think we do have something under solar right now, don't we, Tim?
We do. This is, it's Article 15A.
Oh.
And the Energy Committee felt that there was a few definitions that, that people, it's not that they were mentioned in the ordinance, but people use the term frequently. And if they looked at our ordinance and didn't find that term, then they might think it wasn't covered. So it was an attempt to
Make it clear.
make it clear.
Was there, is this to button up our current solar ordinances so that we don't run into certain situations that could be problematic?
Well, definitely solar collection system mounts. That was the big thing when that person came in front of the ZBA
Trying to
and
put
wanted them way up.
a huge
you
solar
know.
tree or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
higher than the solar
Well,
tree.
you've changed the setback from 200 to 50. I mean, that seems to be the only material thing.
No, the mounts
other-
are important too.
Other than, you know, the definitions.
Yep, under definitions, right.
Okay. I mean,
Anybody have any questions, issues,
So
or
this
problems?
kind of like covers, so you don't put if you have your whole front yard, all solar panels, that's you're limited to solar panels, so you don't have like 60 of them all in your front yard. So
Which
this
right now
would
you
give
can.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Does it cover someone with a nice parcel of land, like say an industrial, you know, let's say the distribution center in C3 has a section of land, it allows them to put a
It
bunch of.
does. There's a table in the existing table in the ordinance that lists various sizes can go in different zones.
Yeah.
So
Right. I
in
use
the
commercial.
residential zones, I think
Three
only
and
the
C1.
small. And C3 was not in there at all because we didn't have a C3, I think, when we did the solar, or we, you know,
Just ignored it,
keeps
we know.
popping up in, you know,
Can we
different places.
Can we lump
So-
all this together in some capacity? Is that the way it's going to be anyways? It's going to be under one amendment. It's going to be one amendment, right?
One amendment.
Okay. All right, good. All right. Anybody have any questions, issues, or problems with it?
No, I'm good. Good with it.
It's also number,
Propose Plastow zoning amendments Z 24-04. Are you in favor of amendment number 4 as proposed tap maps inclusive 24, 37, 28, inclusive of 1 Main Street to 53 Main Street would rezone all parcels currently designated as C2 to the medium density residential. So this is the land that starts at the old meeting house,
It doesn't include the meeting house, though.
does it?
just
Well, no,
after.
because we're half, we're only half.
Is that the old pool place that was on the right? What's the beginning of that? Or there's a house or two after,
Yeah.
You got the red house there, right?
Get
There's
the
a-
red house,
There's
yep.
there's a map on the
Yeah,
next.
the yellow, I think it's
Oh, okay.
the yellow house, and
Yeah,
it
there's
would
a map.
include the yellow and the
Map
red
right
one.
there.
Oh, it doesn't include the red one?
Yeah. And it goes up to Bittersweet.
anybody have any, so this, the intent of this is to say basically that the character of this zone is essentially, is primarily residential with some businesses in there.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't affect the village center.
It's not like that's going to be this nice, like we're restricting this nice little area that could be a cute little downtown. I mean, there's just it's almost like a random smattering of old businesses that are shoehorned into residential community, right? They'll be grandfathered in.
Yeah, it doesn't change what's
Doesn't
there.
change what's there.
The
Any
intent is just so no other businesses go in there, right? That's kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you got? You got a handful
Could be anything.
right now, so. Any concerns,
There
problems?
was a,
Kindergarten,
yeah,
kindergarten, there was a
there was a mortgage place.
mortgage place, yep.
It's where the 2 granite columns are in front of a,
Yeah, they also was
Oh, yeah.
selling insurance in there too.
Yeah,
wasn't there, one
yeah.
point in
like the
time?
ye old something or other.
and
wasn't
now
it?
that's, I think it's condos.
Is that really what it is?
Yeah,
now?
I
Well,
think-
the Taylor used to live in there too.
I think it's condos now.
Okay. That might be his business too.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
And
what
years,
did we say MDR? I think that's more in character with what that is. I mean, any concerns or questions about it?
All right, if yours is number 4, then what is all this solar one?
number 3.
Right.
Okay.
And stormwater's not on there too, so.
So with this one here, we'd have to notify everybody in that district about the possible change, right?
Right.
Zoning would change boundary of zoning.
And that would give you a chance to look at other things. I don't know how that, by changing it,
But I don't understand. It
Taxes or not, I
says,
don't
it
know.
says would change a boundary of a zoning district. I'm not this doesn't suggest to change a boundary. Like, it's not extending it or it's not making it any smaller. It's just rezoning a district.
My personal thing, though, if someone lives in that, on that stretch,
Yeah,
and we're looking to change it,
yeah.
I think they should be notified to know.
Oh, yeah,
about
I'm
it.
not saying it's a
I'm all
bad
about
thing.
that.
No, I'm not saying it's, I'm just saying that it's, the RSA says, would change a boundary, but that's
That
really,
didn't come up when we changed part of C1 to C3.
no, it didn't. There were no mailings when,
Was there 100 or fewer properties that were impacted?
I don't know.
I doubt it.
I
I
don't
think there
know.
was over 100 in that stretch.
But
We got a lot of residential here too, so I think everyone there should be well aware of what's being discussed. That's
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah, something to note is that there are some commercial businesses in that area, and when they're assessed, it will be different, and their property values might be affected because they have they will have a legally non-conforming business. But if anyone were ever to purchase the property and want to do anything else other than that use that is already occurring, they would not be able to if it's changed from commercial to MDR.
Yeah, and that's
Which is a good thing.
So they should be aware.
how would it affect their assessment?
I'm curious about that.
I'm
too.
not sure how it. That's just what Dee told me.
There's,
I don't exactly, because I know that the assessment is not affected by its future potential, but its current potential. But I do see it affecting commercial businesses' property values, so they do need to be notified.
I don't have a problem with the notification. I'm just wondering how it's going to affect their value.
I'd be curious.
It's going to make
hear.
their value go down? I don't think so.
Up.
Not up.
Might make their value.
yeah, I don't know if it goes down, then obviously everyone else in town would have to pay the difference. If it goes up, then they get penalized. But I think it's a
I mean,
it's a quick question to ask the assessing
the
officer.
value of
Yeah.
homes these days, I mean, I don't see how it would make it go down.
It's a question for the assessing.
Yeah.
Would this affect it, right? Should be a quick question.
All right, that's fair. I'm okay with it as it's written.
Who-
It's an interesting spin, or not a spin, but an interesting take on that. I'd be curious to see what that's based on.
Yeah, it's a quick question. It's just go to the assessing officer.
Yeah.
If this changes from this to this, what are we looking at?
Who's going to ask the assessor?
We can work that. One of us in here will do it in town hall. I'll do it or someone else.
Do you, is that a valid statement? I mean,
I don't see how their value would go down, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the right answer than have no answer.
Yeah, no,
fair enough.
I'm not saying don't
And
have.
if it doesn't affect it,
I'm not saying, that's just
Besides
my,
that, does anybody have any questions or issues?
I just went, Victoria, what do you want me to do on that one that I was talking about?
I got it.
Okay, thanks.
So I felt that retail and cleaning up the retail definitions was one of the quintessential outcomes of our economic development survey.
Yep.
And I get where you're coming from a resource and time standpoint. But I felt that was a really important thing. I don't know about the rest of the board. Again, people tell us they do and don't want certain types of businesses in town. I want to try to impact zoning by steering via the amendment
Well, right
process.
now, what would we change? Because like that bed and bath, that's a good building to offer either for what we thought, entertainment, even food, even anything like that. So what would we zone to change? That we should be encouraging somebody to go in there, but, what is the zoning going to do to improve that?
Mega used car lot, mega tire store.
Yeah. I mean, entertainment would fit in there, I'm pretty sure.
Yep,
The concern always is parking and septic.
right, and that's got beautiful parking.
So there's plenty of parking there, I would say, for whatever went in there.
Yeah, I agree.
Septic, you know, and entertainment, like a movie theater or arcade or something, probably not. The septic
It's big.
could probably handle that. Restaurant, probably not.
Right, that's true.
So,
Do we have, and do we have a retail definition right now?
Depends on where you're looking.
Retail. We don't technically have a tried and true retail definition, correct?
It's very general, very general.
So just, while he's looking at that, so from 125 going up Main Street, a good portion of that used to be commercial, and then it was brought back to residential. So I don't know.
I remember that.
Like what, that was actually, I think it happened in the 80s. So, just info.
Yeah,
info's
good.
Richard, what did you?
So the stretch up to like North Ave or a little bit
No,
beyond?
from 125 going up Main Street.
Yeah.
Like where all those automobile businesses are, and
I didn't write it up yet.
Yeah.
that was all,
Should I wait?
that was commercial. That-
Beyond the post office.
The junkyard.
Oh, almost to the Pines,
Gonna get forgotten
East
again.
and West Pine you were talking about?
No.
Oh,
From 125 going up Main Street.
going up Main
Help me
Street.
write it.
Oh, I see. I know what you're talking about. 121A,
Yeah,
cross
yeah,
to the left side of
I-
125.
yeah. That used to be all commercial
Yeah.
going up there.
And what's that all zone now?
I didn't
That's
have
all
it.
residential.
Yeah.
The town voted to change it back to residential.
Although we still have the existing businesses there.
Well,
Right.
I
Because it
do.
was
I have the
Right.
first
commercial, I
sentence.
get it.
But not a barber shop. No, we have a barber shop. We just don't have a barber school.
Remember I read it to you?
Did you peek at our zoning to see what we have for retail? Are you doing that right now?
I can. Yes.
I don't know. I know that's my personal feeling is that we should tighten that up and try to steer the types of businesses that do and don't go in via the retail definition. I guess I'll ask the board, do you guys feel strongly like I do or not?
Yeah, I do.
Yep. If it helps.
Yeah, I mean, I guess can we exclude some uses that that the general public doesn't want to see in town by tightening up the retail definition?
Yeah, by tightening it up, maybe you can.
So I did provide you guys 3 different
Like would you
towns definitions of retail. I also noted that Newton, Dover, East Kingston, Fremont, and Kingston do not define retail.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
As far as us,
We have a definition, but it's very generous.
yeah, we do. It's extremely general. Where is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
So what's the latest date we can have the public hearing for us? Do we know that?
Yeah, we're going to
I
do
have-
everything next meeting, just about.
yeah, I mean,
January something. I know that.
January 3rd. It's our first meeting in January. Is it the 3rd?
We've only got
Yeah, it would be the
It's
first
the
is on a
third.
Monday.
Got the 30th, we're gonna.
So you really got one meeting and then you get the 3rd, that's it?
We have one application coming before us.
Does it
for
have
next-
to be the 3rd? Do we have to have it the 3rd?
Retail business.
We're not,
A business enterprise where goods and or services are sold or rented directly to the ultimate consumer.
that's us? That's what we
That's
have?
us.
Yeah, very general.
Yeah, and
Said
that
Very
rented
general.
was added like
Yeah.
in, I
Right.
think 2020 maybe.
It was kind of recent, yeah.
Yeah, so, I don't know, that's very broad.
Very broad is right. That's why anything comes in.
When do we have to, somebody wrote this down at one point, I don't have it on me. When is the last retail?
What is what?
When is the last public date?
January 3rd, right?
January
Oh, when do
3rd,
we
we
have to
have,
have our-
do we have to, that would be the meeting that corresponds, that's our last opportunity to have the public hearings.
So the public
either-
hearing, do we have a certain date we have to have that public hearing?
By January 3rd, we have to have it?
That's just how it aligns with our meeting schedule. I can look up the actual meeting schedule.
I know January 3rd is the last
It would
time
be
we
the
have a
3rd,
chance
then it
to
would be
change
the,
anything. Vote,
17th,
everything's
right?
got to be done, January 3rd.
The 17th is too late,
So it's gotta be the 3rd.
so it has to be
Has
the
to be.
3rd, unless you wanted to have a different
Could we have a
meeting.
different, you're right, if we need
Yeah.
that 3rd,
I don't know
we
that
have
date
it the
off the
next
top of my
week.
head, so let me look it up.
why does the public
Uh,
hearing have to be on that? If it would save us, give us
Oh,
time.
I get that. You just gotta make sure wherever you wanna hold it, you get available space for it.
Okay.
I don't know if there's any other meetings scheduled or not. That I
Oh,
don't
so you're
know.
saying like instead of the 3rd, Wednesday, the
Right,
10th?
the next one, yeah, right.
10th.
Have a meeting the 10th and the 17th or whatever.
Or you could do
Okay,
the 3rd.
I
and
have
the
it. No, I don't.
Well,
It's-
one of them has to be the application,
Right.
public application meeting,
Right.
which is what we're legally bound to do, is at least one meeting a month,
Okay.
typically to accommodate applicants.
Mitch, you could meet 3 times. Sure you could. You just gotta make sure you have availability for a room.
Yeah.
A place to go,
So is there a
like the
reason?
library or something, that's like a other building there in the
Or
library.
you gotta make sure you got a place where this can be filmed
Okay.
too, right?
I found it.
Well. it should be
2024.
able to With Dean.
January 24th?
No. So Thursday, January 4th, 2024 is the last day to post and publish notice for the first hearing. Friday, January 5th, last day for voters to petition select board to include an article in the warrant proposing a bond, blah, blah, blah. January 9th, last day for select board to publish notice of time, place, and subject a public hearing. That's irrelevant. January 9th, annual budget. January 9th, last year budget.
What about the 10th?
Budget commission, last day for governing body, last day to hold. Okay, Monday, January 15th, last day to hold first public meeting by planning board on proposed adoption or amendment of zoning ordinance. Blah, blah, blah. So the 15th is the last day that we can have a meeting to vote.
So is there any, the 24th, or excuse me, the 17th is pretty much set in stone for the application hearing.
Right.
Unless we move that too, we'd have to notice that, but is the board potentially saying that maybe instead of doing the 3rd, we would do the 10th? And then we would have
I
to,
think we need.
we'd have to vote to make that the public
You
hearing,
may need both.
You might
I'm
need
not
both.
positive,
I
but
agree.
it's possible you might need both.
the 3rd and the 10th?
And the 10th would be the
Yep.
public. It might be a short one, right, but you come in, but that's the
Yes.
public. But the 3rd would be to button everything up, right?
Right, exactly. We'd have an extra, yes. Yep, we're gonna need that.
Because next meeting, you want to talk about retail definitions?
Well,
Because basically you come in the 3rd, it's like, here are the warrants, right, that we're gonna put out there.
yeah, what else do
And
we
if we wanna
have?
make any changes, this is it.
Well,
and
I
that's
would
it.
like to present another amendment too. so-
We just have the 4 right
Putting it
now.
up yet.
What's this packet?
And I have no idea.
This has a bunch of crossouts and
What does it say on the front?
just zoning ordinance.
But for what year? Is that
2023.
last year?
Oh, that's the storm. That must be stormwater.
That's the stormwater.
Oh, this is stormwater. So I can put this to the side?
Yeah, we already reviewed it. I don't know why she printed it out.
Okay.
That was after I made some edits based off of Mr. Keach. But the only change that I did was I changed it from a regulation to an ordinance, so I just changed how
So we only have 4 zoning amendments right now?
and stormwater. That makes 5.
I wanted to present another one, maybe next time written this time. So is that bad? I mean, we still have one more meeting to do this, right?
It's got to get in the next one.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
It has to, what?
Yeah.
Well, if it's all written up and it's done, I will read it and then we have to vote on it anyway, right?
Are you talking about the commercial one for C3 that we just agreed on?
No,
It's a different one.
No, that one you said you would,
I'll take care of it. Yeah.
okay.
So that's another
No,
one.
this is another one.
So what is
I
that,
wanna
7?
do.
How many's on this document?
4,
4? Yeah.
which is
5, 6,
light
7.
compared to what we've done in the
So,
past.
so we got 3 meetings coming up, right, or 4?
Right.
Right, so next
Let's
meeting I'd be
say right
fine.
now, what do we plan to accomplish at each meeting? So we come in and we're buttoned up and we're focused.
Next-
Next meeting, we have an application.
Yep.
Do we know if there are any other applications?
No.
Okay, so,
We still could do something after that.
yeah,
Yep.
We have to do something.
we have to, yeah. So
That's
let's,
what I'm saying. Can I do that if it's all written
Yeah.
and done?
I can have C3 written up, no problem,
great.
by next meeting.
Okay,
The
thank
solar
you.
looks to be good. And the
Thank you.
24-04 zoning amendment looks to be good.
And I already wrote up stormwater in this warrant fashion, and it was approved by D. It just didn't make it to this document.
Okay.
You want to bring it up?
And then I'd like to look at retail. I will put some time into
Want me to
that.
Bring it up now and tell what it is?
I have
Sure.
a very crappy, busy schedule, but I will, since I feel strongly about it, I will try to put some time into that.
We don't do that.
If anybody else wants to,
That's what I've been suggesting.
if anybody else,
Can I ask a question first here?
yeah, can I just finish this and then you
Yep.
jump in?
Yep.
If anybody else wants to provide any input on retail, please send it along to Victoria and me, right? It won't be a public forum if they just do it that individually. So individually send me anything they may want to see or not see on retail. And then what we'll try to do is get that written up for the next meeting. And then the next meeting we'll vote for when we're gonna have the public hearing.
This is the first sentence I've got. All right.
The public hearing, we kind of almost have it decided, right? It's going to
That's
have
what I
to be,
wanted
it's
to
going to
do
be
last
before the
year. I was
15th,
gonna
right? So
do
it's
it
probably
this
going to be.
year.
about the ZBA?
It could be the
I would-
third.
I would say right
So
now,
come
on
to
our
planning
next
board,
meeting
though.
in December, we would
We
vote
can give
to
a
post the
amendment.
warrants for the public hearing.
Yeah,
We
Schedule the
don't.
public hearing on January 3rd.
Right,
Yeah.
and
That's the
then-
next.
No,
If we don't finish
And what was I doing? When
on
I
the
have no
3rd,
idea.
Gives us that
whatever
extra-
reason,
Last year I wanted to
then
do it. You said,
continue the
okay.
public hearing until the
You said last year to do it.
The 10th, it would have to be the 10th.
or the 10th. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so
Yeah.
now we have 8.
So we got to vote on, so you're saying
Yeah,
vote on,
that's right.
we got to vote on this stuff the next meeting.
and I'm sorry, Karen, did you want to mention something?
No.
else?
No, I just straightened her out.
Okay, good.
And
Thank you.
and just one follow-up. We had discussed the warrant article from last year, number 14. We agreed that it was defective. I think, Victoria, you had proposed some language that would tighten it up, but then I think last meeting you said that there was other language that was proposed to kind
Oh,
of
for
Bigfoot it is.
site plan?
Yes,
Yeah.
site plan applicability.
So you had, and I was at the meeting where there was some adjustment to the language. We thought all was good. And then you're saying that there was some additional input to change what we all thought was good?
Right.
Let me,
Who,
I thought your language was pretty much on point, but
who introduced the new language?
Jen.
Okay, so she reviewed it
Okay,
and gave some
yes.
input. Okay.
So we, it was Z2314, and the issue that we had with it is Part B, any application for physical changes to a lot in the commercial, industrial, or multifamily residential districts must include a site plan. But we don't have a multifamily residential district.
Okay, so we pointed that out and we said, let's change that and get rid of the multifamily.
Yes, and I had other eyes on it. I said, how do you feel about this? And then Jen sent me a couple other examples from communities that were better and were more specific. I can also resend that to you.
So
But
is,
the way that it is, it's just null and void. It's not necessarily offensive and going to lead to litigation.
so
It just
the,
doesn't make sense.
So you're telling us we can say no family, right?
Yeah, you're good.
what did the language, did you show the board what Jen's recommended language was?
Yeah.
It's not here though today, right?
No, this is a while ago. We talked about
Sorry, I
this.
missed that.
Yeah.
What was the, what was
But then
in that?
there didn't seem to be any interest in doing a whole overhaul of site plan applicability, so I kind of dropped it. Because it's one of those cleaning up things.
Yeah, is everybody still okay with this, or does?
I can send it to you again, or we can put it on the back burner for next year.
I'll just straw poll the board.
I think particularly if we're doing a lot of work with housing, this one is one that we maybe should get cleaned up. The only residential uses that also require site plans are when you do a PRD, when you do an over 55 and over, whatever the heck the name of that ordinance is.
Cluster.
And there's one other one that I can't think of, but it involves multifamily.
Mhm.
So I think that's how multifamily district got put in, as multifamily uses is probably better. But even if you have a PRD of single family homes, it still requires a site plan.
Yeah, and we have that stated in, not necessarily in that language, but in other language, right? Where we say you need a site plan for a PRD. Because we have a separate PRD definition that says. because the
I believe it
definition
does.
Says you
And we
require.
do not have multifamily, though.
But is it no harm, no foul? Like, does it hurt us to have it in that language when it,
I don't think
whether we have it or
anyone,
not?
I don't think
doesn't hurt?
anyone could argue to get a way that we weren't comfortable with.
Yeah. The fact that it says it doesn't hurt anything, change anything, right? Other than the fact that we don't have a multifamily district.
I
which is
don't
kind
think
of-
so.
Need it.
Yeah.
So what would we do? We would simply just pull that MF multifamily district out of the language. Is it worth it?
Or can I send you these two examples
Yeah.
again?
Oh, we got to do that bond thing.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You're putting your jacket on. You.
Yeah, I'm ready to roll.
Sorry.
We should eliminate.
Yeah. Please send it out. We'll see if it.
Yeah.
If we want to
Let's eliminate
because
it.
next meeting is the last time to button that up, and again we'll get the dates all shored up.
Well, as Tim was saying, you think the next meeting we should be voting, right?
Voting to set the public meeting.
Yeah, voting to post the warrants
Right.
to the public hearing.
And so we figure we want to do it the third, you were saying?
Unless you want to come in extra nights and
Right, the
pull your
10th.
hair out on one
It's whether we're
awful
gonna need
meeting
it.
in
That's what I thought.
January, I think you should hold
I'll check with the library.
even
to
if
give
you
me the
don't get
date.
through all of the warrants, and now we're talking a handful on the third, you can continue that public hearing to
To the
the
10th, right?
next time.
Yeah, because we're only talking, we'd only have what, maybe 5 or 6 tops, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to read it all, right?
7.
I have to read it. Do I have to read it twice though?
No, just
No,
one.
just once.
Triplicate.
It's the bylaws, you gotta read twice.
I got to read it once on a public hearing all the way through. So I'll have to read this stormwater
No,
crap.
not the whole thing.
What?
Not the whole thing. It's like a half a page.
All right. All right. So let's get through this. All right. So I think we get things covered. On September 21st, 2022, the planning board set the bond amount for the above noted subdivision project at $220,393.25, 50% of the reviewed bond estimate as per 23-5-12-10B of the planning board subdivision review regulations, SDRR, and per the review by Keach Nordstrom Associates, K&A of a bond estimate worksheet. In July of 2023, the applicant received a partial release of the bond, is now requesting an additional release per SDRR 235-12-11, release of the construction bonds, release of construction bonds amended 4/1 2015. As work is completed, inspected, and found to be installed per approved plan, the applicant may request a corresponding portion of the construction bond to be released to the applicant. The requested release amount will be reviewed by the planning board engineer and approved by the board. In no case will the amount released reduce the amount remaining below 10% of the original total amount plus anticipated cost of recording record as built-in plans. It is expected that the 10% amount will roll over to a performance bond. The original amount shown and reviewed on the bond estimate worksheet was $440,786.50. The bond was set at 50% of that number to $220,393.25. There was a completion of $303,420 of work that reduced the value of the site work to $107,024.50. And on July 19, 2023, the board reduced the bond to $53,512.23, which was 50% of the revised site work value. Second request to reduce the bond has been received. The value of the completed work to date, the outstanding site work, $57,029.50. Completed work has been verified by Jeff Quirk of Keach Norris Associates, and his memo was attached. Per 23-5-1211, the applicant is required to maintain a minimum bond of at least 10% of the original site work, which will be $44,078.65. That is as far of a reduction the applicant can be granted. Once the site is completed, the 10% will be converted to the roadway performance bond that will be held for 2 years by the Board of Selectmen upon acceptance of Stephen C. Savage Way as a town road. Mr. Quirk's memo notes a bond reduction of $57,029.50, which would leave a bond balance of $49,995. But the memo forgets to note that were it not for the requirement to not reduce the bond to less than 10% of the original amount, we'd only be able to hold half that number of $28,514.55, which would be far less than the 10% amount that must be maintained. The draft motion below is reflective of all the requirements of SPR 23-1211. Based on all the above information, staff is offering the below draft motion for the board's consideration. And that draft motion calls for a reduction to $44,000.78, for the duration of the project. And no further reductions will be considered. Does someone want to read the draft motion?
Yeah, I move that the construction bond for the Palmerwood subdivision to be reduced to $44,078.65 for the duration of the project. No further reductions will be considered.
Bill reads the motion. Do I have a second? Chuck seconds. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0. That's it? Old business, new business, anything? All right, long meeting. Thank you, everyone. Sorry for some babbling. With that, we will close the meeting at 9:37.